Welcome back to the SPL. That is exactly right. We have obviously teamed up with Maxonomic to bring you the perfect SMITE chair, and I was racking my brain trying to think of what could be the best kind of advertisement for that chair, and I thought of nothing better than the fact that Gore and I were able to cast a 78-minute SMITE game in it very, very comfortably, so hard to think of something better than that. Make sure that you pick up your very own one. Head to needforseat.com. Pick up one of these chairs. It's the only way to get the exclusive in-game ward skin as well, so make sure that you pick up one if you would like the same kind of comfort that allowed Gore and I to go through one of the toughest experiences of our lives. I am joined here on the desk, though, obviously, by Caleb Mifflin Sullivan. Mifflin, we got a good set coming up here, man. This is going to be Radiance taking on eUnited. I know that it seems by the standings to be a rough one, but I'm excited for this one.
Look, I'm glad you're excited because by all expectations, it should be a rough one. I mean, it is technically the best versus the bottom, right? I mean, but eUnited have been looking convincingly better every step of the way. And I think it was you that said to me that when eUnited finds wins, they're convincing wins. They're very good. They're well thought out. They don't really bring it down to these nail-biting endings. And I think that's that level of consistency that we can expect from them. It's just whether or not they're able to bring it against this top-seeded team. I think there are two versions of eUnited. The version that comes in with a strategy, and you can clearly define what it is they're looking for in any given map. And then there's the version that comes in, picks 5 random gods, and kind of gets trounced out. I'm expecting that as the season goes on, we're going to see a lot less of the second and a lot more of the first.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, more than any of the other teams I feel like that we've seen struggle, eUnited feel like the team that just needs to kind of get it clicking, right? I mean, we've obviously seen all this individual skill from this team continually shine through. It just feels like they get a little bit out of sync in some of their late game decision making, or maybe that someone ends up kind of going off on their own, or that they're not quite sure what to do next. Once that stuff gets sort of honed in, remember, they're working with Guy in that hunter role for them, who is, you know, essentially a rookie at this point. I think this eUnited team is going to be one that all of the teams got to make sure they're looking out for.
Yeah, they certainly have a lot of top-end potential, and I think we're right to point out that Guy J is still a new addition to this team. Snoopy's still really reacclimating to a new role inside of support, but as it goes on, these guys are looking a lot better. I would say that Snoopy's been getting a lot more consistent. Mechanically, no issues from Snoopy. He locks in Hercules. I trust him to hit the driving strike almost every time. Everything's coming through big, and I think it really does come down to how well are eUnited playing around Guy J, because there are times where he's looking like one of the best ADCs. He can really pop off on picks like Rom, like Freya, and when his team's meshing around him, that's when they're looking like a real competitor.
It is. He's got to make sure they're able to get there more consistently. And remember, you know, this whole they're still getting new, they're getting into the groove, that sort of thing. There's a shelf life on that. It's only going to last for so long. But I think they are still within that grace period, I think, where we can sort of cut Unite a little bit of slack in terms of getting everything together and make sure they're all on the same page. That's way easier said than done. It's not the easiest thing to try and do because the other 7 teams in this league are not going to give you a single easy set. So certainly there's a lot of work they have to do, but perhaps no harder matchup for them than this Radiance team that they're about to go up against here, Mifflin, because they have been firing on all cylinders. All the things we said have been struggling for United, I feel like, is there for Radiance. Plus, they might just be the best in slot at each one of their roles. I mean, this Radiance team does not make it easy for anybody.
I mean, they're looking so good. Back at the tail end of Phase 1, we were saying that, or it was Cyclone Spin himself saying that he felt like he was in a rut. Out here in Phase 2, he's popping off, maybe off this comfort pick from Rom, but he's been hugely impactful in every single one of their wins. He initiates fights with that Rom ultimate, immediately drops one person to 20% health, and then pops off for the rest of the fight until his ult comes back up, and he finishes off someone with it. He's looking so incredibly impactful on gods like Cupid as well. He's really found some picks that he can find himself at home with. This dude's looking like an absolute menace on the battlegrounds.
He is, and I mean, obviously, Benji, Adapting, and Aurora are all some of the very best who've ever done it, but I think you got to remember that big man. Ting's been playing really well here lately as well. S has Cyclone Spin. I mean, this backline for Radiance, I think, has really stepped it up every single time we've seen them getting better and better. But we had a chance to talk to Cyclone Spin a little bit earlier today and see how he's feeling coming into their set up against eUnited.
All right, we have Cyclone ADC for Radiance joining us now, and Cyclone, you guys have been kind of red hot as of late. Do you think it's just been riding that momentum from Phase 1 playoffs and your good performance there, or what's been the difference for you guys?
I think it's partially from the momentum from Phase 1 playoffs. I actually do think that teams this phase, just like last phase, has been playing really well either.
Yeah,
No
you
one's
guys,
really
I
playing
mean,
that well.
you guys have definitely been capitalizing on that for sure. But I think that you did, even if you don't think that every team is playing super well, I think it's fair to say that your performance this week earlier against Ghost was maybe your cleanest one so far here in Phase 2. At least Biggie felt that way. Do you think that you guys just rose to the occasion of a big game, or it just came up your number that day?
I think we played relatively clean. I don't think Ghost was playing like extremely well. They weren't really executing what they normally do to other teams, which is a early game dominant team. They didn't really have that same type of pressure towards us, and we just kind of capitalized on their lack of early game pressure.
Well, hopefully, in your case at least, you're going to be doing that again here today up against eUnited, a team that has struggled, but Biggie mentioned them specifically, saying that you cannot afford to overlook this team because they still have some really talented players. What is it hard though? I mean, they've struggled so much as of late. Do you feel that same way, that you've really got to stay on your A game in order to beat them?
Yeah, I do think that. Any team can really just pop off whenever. So if you underestimate a team, you'll probably end up losing the set. So we try to go into the set without like underestimating our opposition, no matter how like bottom of the standings they are or top of the standings.
Well, the top of the standings are in your sights. If you could win this set, you'd have those basically alone right now. Good luck today, Cyclone, and hopefully you guys can keep that momentum going.
Thank you.
Well, it sounds like Cyclone Spin and Radiance are giving eUnited their due respect here at this point, because even though they have not found a set win yet, if you end up sleeping, they certainly could take a set off of you. Now, Mifflin, I'm wondering what we're going to be expecting here from the picks and bans, because we just saw in that Obey set previously that if you're not careful, then a lot of good stuff can end up on the other side. I think that you got to make sure you're paying attention from minute one, even in those picks and bans, or you could end up in an unwinnable situation.
Yeah, we saw in that Obey set, it really came down to, we're looking at a ton of target bans coming out from Ghost Gaming that left a bunch of really meta picks available. I think Radiance might not have that same edge to target bound eUnited out. Sure, you could look at Hurriwan's Yanis or something along those lines, or Snoopy's Hercules, but I think it really comes down to that eUnited and Radiance are both students of the meta. I think they're really just going to address those standard 6 bans that we're used to seeing.
Well, the Nemesis getting banned away is a good start, right? That would leave things like the Persephone, the Yamoja, the Freya, the Olaruns to come to mind right after that. Certainly Cthulhu, I think, could belong in that same list. But I think there's some consideration when you're in these picks and bans, Mifflin, especially if you're in that first pick spot, to making sure that you're leaving, you know, enough picks open that maybe right at the tail end you can get the highest value pick that's remaining and then leave the opposition in a tough spot. Right now, do you think first, second pick kind of have any kind of edge in that regard, or do you have to make sure you're always banning the best stuff?
I think in the first pick position, you can very likely just rely on banning out meta picks, but if you're in second pick, banning out target gods is way better, because you're going to leave at least 3 gods open. You get yourself 2 of them. I mean, that's really just how it's going to work out. We saw earlier that it was Amaterasu and Nike getting picked up second every single game, or something along those lines, or similar strength levels. But with Radiance coming in at first pick here, I think it is making sense to me that we're looking at just about the most standard bans that we could see. Sans Neath. We don't usually see that in the first 6.
That's right. That means that Freya is going to make her way through and certainly would still seem strong. I don't know if Radiance won't necessarily first pick this, but this is certainly something that we have seen Cyclone Spin play well. The Persephone, another one of those picks that has not been taken yet to this point, and this feels a little bit more to me like what Radiance might want. I think Big Man Tings, I mentioned it earlier, has been a really big part of this successful streak that Radiance have found themselves on. He has stepped up and become in his own right a win condition, his own threat. You can no longer overlook this player, or he will take the game over on a pick just like this.
He's an absolute beast. I mean, it was just last week that he essentially won his team the game off a fantastic Merlin play. But this is what I'm talking about. United go ahead and take out a target ban inside of this Neath, and now they're left Freya and Nemesis if they choose to go that route. 2 phenomenal picks. Not the best matchup in a Persephone. Usually out of the jungle, you want someone who's got a little bit more early pressure. So instead, it's going to be the Sobek. Interesting to see. Could be flexed into either support or solo lane. We've been seeing him a little bit more in that support role as of late. I like the pick in general, but as far as fight potential goes in the long lane or clear potential, if he is matched up with that Freya, they're going to be a little bit lacking. It's going to be very easy to pressure out that lane.
Yeah, I like that you mentioned that Sobek has that ability to sort of flex between two different roles. I like this Thor pick coming in too, in a world where Nemesis was taken off the board there by Radiance pretty early on. This, I think, is the best of the jungler left. I mean, Myth, I know you and I have been talking about this a little bit behind the scenes, but Thor feels almost criminally undervalued at this point in the SPL to me, so I'm glad to see him being picked up. Plus the ROM, which you already highlighted as one of the picks Cyclone Spin has really elevated his play on.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I'm going to go in on the Thor because you know I've got that jungle bias. This god is nuts. He's going to dunk you with Anvil of Dawn, take out 80% of your health bar with the hammer, and if you somehow miraculously survive that, he's going to spin on you and then auto-attack you with empowered autos from his new passive. He's absolutely strong, and he controls the pace of the game through that semi-global ultimate. He's so good. I think he's really shown his strength through Panatom on Sanguine. This guy was struggling a little bit towards the beginning of Phase 2, trying to pick these meta picks like Nemesis. He's slowly been getting a little bit better at those. But every time we see him lock in Thor, it's nutty. And I think there's a direct correlation there.
Well, eUnited going to pick up the Cupid with their last pick of the first picking phase. We're going to the second round of bans. And I think Cupid has really increased in value here lately. The Fields of Love, obviously very strong, but I think some of the changes to itemization have helped him. If you want to go a more slightly ability-based build and get value out of the Heart Bomb and the ult, you can. And he also does really well with the normal sort of attack speed pen type build that we see out there too. So this is a strong pick with tons of control and even some sneaky sustain with those hearts. As we're starting to see some Guardians getting banned here by eUnited, they take away the Kuzenbo and the Cabrakan.
Those are smart bans immediately targeting what's lacking on Radiance's draft. Kuzenbo getting taken away, that's essentially a target ban. Cabrakan getting taken away, that's engage factor, that's backline disruption, everything that eUnited is going to be worried about. And those two picks in particular are very strong at eUnited's draft as it is. Kuzenbo walks in front of your Freya, sure, she can lifesteal the majority of it, but if he goes Thorns and pops his two, she's going to be dealing with an incredibly tanky, incredibly annoying turtle running her down. Cabrakan's got a fantastic matchup in all three just because that wall would have been hugely impactful. So I love the band so far.
Oh, and now a Najah pick coming through for Scream. We've seen him playing this a little bit more lately. I believe he picked it up in the last set that we watched him playing as well. So this is clearly something like comfort for this team. And I know a lot of the times with something like this, you want, you know, sort of a traditional big mage ultimate to follow that back up. But I think Cupid, since I'm kind of leaning towards Cupid probably being in the mid lane between him and the Freya, I think this will function fine as follow-up for it. How do you think Cupid lines up with this Najah?
It's very easy to line up the timing of Fields of Love if you know the timing of it. You can have it pop the second they land from the Windfire wheels. Heart Bomb as a follow-up doesn't get much better than that. It's just a huge burst of damage. I think it's pretty strong a combo. But the clear potential into Persephone, the poke potential in that lane, I'm going to lean towards Radiance just because what's Cupid going to do to match up with Persephone's ranged poke? Bone Rush is going to hit him from further away than he can return damage from. He's going to have a much easier time clearing waves with the Persephone kit as well. I think it's going to come down to a lot of how well this Najah pressures out the mid laner.
Yeah, plus Cupid's dumb, right? When he dies, he dies. Persephone gets to keep right on fighting. You love that. So that's going to be pretty tough to match with. The Xing Chen Hercules comes through to give Radiance not just a ton of tanky frontline presence, but if this Hercules does end up going to Aurora, which you'd have to think it's likely to, I mean, that's one of his best gods. I mean, he's one of the ones that really showed the value of this pick. This is kind of scary now if you're on any United side.
Man, I can't believe Hercules' Aurora made it that far into the pick phase. That's might have just been a sign of disrespect if you ask me. You got to address that one early on. The drafts are good from both teams. I think United has a clear defining factor in what they're looking for. Radiance has a way to just get themselves into the late game and allow Persephone and Rom to pop off inside of this early game jungler Thor. There's a lot on both teams that could work out, but I think I might be leaning ever so slightly with Radiance.
Yeah, if we're doing it just based on drafts, obviously got to give Radiance a bit of an edge just based on the results here. But I agree, these are both very close drafts here, Meffel. I think United have done a good job to give themselves not just a fighting chance, but some picks that we know work really well with those players. Radiance versus eUnited. Let's go ahead and kick off that game one.
Happy to do it down here, Finch. It is Dulcet and Gormizer on the cast. Doug working the camera for the final set of this week here in the SPL. Gormizer, Radiance versus eUnited, if you're strictly looking at the standings, is one that looks very lopsided. But we have to remember this eUnited team has gone 3 games in 4 out of their 7 sets, and 2 of those 1 against SSG, 1 against Ghost. This eUnited team has been so close to finding that win, especially against these top 4 teams. They have to be so excited at another chance to maybe get one here. So you know, you give Radiance the edge, but eUnited are a team that can step up big time in these big games.
Yeah, it's almost the inverse of what we got used to in Phase 1. Phase 1, you know, you saw the bottom teams, and they were going to stay kind of near the bottom. They didn't have much hope taking down some of these top teams. But right now, I mean, the numbers do not benefit the level of play that they've been achieving. The 0 wins for eUnited does not benefit what they were able to do, even though it was only one really solid game yesterday. I think that one solid game can be more consistent. Their first game was all right. The second game was great. Their third game, we can wash over for a little bit here. But I think that's something they have going for them. This Freya was a huge factor in that yesterday. Guy J's Freya almost single-handedly won them game number 2 on a defense. So I am very excited that he's back on this pick. I think Snoopy looked good on this Sobek as well. But you're going up against an Aurora Hercules, a ROM there for Cyclone Spin. That's hard in and of itself to just beat outright.
Well, way late on this. Yeah, there's the poll there for chat. 82% for Radiance, 18% on that eUnited vote. So call it about a 1/5 to 4/5 split there. And I want to kind of continue that thread here with the long lane Gormizer and kind of look at the inverse. Snoopy and Guy J here. I think Guy J over the last few sets has performed very well. Slow start to the phase, but I think Guy J has looked good here as of late, kind of echoing a point that you made further on here. Giving Snoopy something like this Sobek, I think, is a good thing for this eUnited long lane. The potential to set up some early pressure in that lane is maybe only going to make Guy J look better, but that is going to be an absolute brawl going against Aurora and Cyclone Spin. Do you see a lot of kill pressure one way or the other? Is that just a mechanical battle? Who doesn't get picked and plucked is the one who lives.
Honestly, there's a little bit of that, but I think, you know, Cyclone Spin, Aurora have a little bit more of an easy time disengaging from eUnited's control and pluck than eUnited have, you know, against them. Snoopy, he can dash back out, but if Guy J gets grabbed, his beads are going to be down, and that's only going to save you so much. Until he gets Aegis and ult, that is an easy kill to pick up in these first few levels. So maybe watch for Aurora to get aggressive. I'm actually kind of surprised to see they haven't been able to find anything, but I think that's more on eUnited just playing it safe as of right now and recognizing that they aren't going to dominate this early game. They can just stalemate it and hope for the best, but Aurora, he knows how to push his luck.
Yeah, Aurora had found some early damage, much in a situation like this. Walks in near the purple buff. The Banish will connect just in time to keep Aurora away from stealing down that purple buff. We saw a moment ago, Doug, I think, smartly hanging around that solo lane. Benji and Variety trading somewhat effectively with one another, and Adapting was just waiting in the wings. A level 3 gank from a Thor is not something you see all that often. It's that level 5 tipping point where Adapting on this Thor is going to, hopefully, if you're playing how you want to, if you're Radiance, impact this map all over the place. Scream, though, is doing some good damage early. That's going to slow down some clear here from Adapting. But it's an interesting point, I think. You look at Thor, where he's been prioritized, where people have put him, and where maybe he deserves to be. I pause to see how much damage will go on to Big Man Ting.
Oh, no.
Does some good damage there.
lazy
Hurrywind
back.
around the side. Oh, it connects from range. No, he misses the ring, and it will be Big Man Tings who stays alive. Adapting now, trying to turn around some damage, able to do so. My goodness, BMT stays alive, but eUnited bringing the pressure.
And I'll be honest, that's a hard one to bounce back from. I think Scream's going to be kicking himself for that one because it feels so free. I mean, the lazy back, that feels like it's almost gifted to you. First blood to your Naja, exactly what you need, I think, in this situation. Already falling a little bit behind this Thor. Could have been the great equalizer. In fact, maybe even given charge over there. Now, Ting's still in danger.
Goodbye, right back to mid lane. And this time it's Variety who rotates over from the solo lane, and Hurrywind will knock down BMT. And well played there. I mean, beads have to get used by this Persephone. Ultimate then shot on the back end of it. That's the way you want to see eUnited capitalize on some early pressure. Hurrywind off to a 1-kill start.
I mean, again, it's a good swing for them. Maybe a little delayed from what they would have wanted, but either way, you get Hurwin now ahead. You also burn down BMT's beads. You get his ult. he's not really safe right now for a little bit, so it's going to take some time before we can see this mid laner, I think, even poke his head out of the Tier 1 tower, let alone try to get aggressive alongside someone like Adapting, who hasn't been able to use that Anvil of Dawn just yet. And I think that's just heads-up play from eUnited, and this kind of relates back to the conversation we were having earlier, but for the most part, eUnited has been Scream, Variety, Heroine, and it was how much can these three do to win the game. Snoopy and Gaijay this phase, unfortunately, just, you know, they've been learning. It's a learning curve. Snoopy is on a new role. Gaijay's in the SPL for the first time. There's not much else you can do about it. And now, this duo lane is hitting their stride. They found exactly where they want to be. And I think it's enabling the rest of the team to play more aggressive like they are.
Aurora playing aggressive now as Adapting was up in the sky. Will slam down, lock down this red buff over here for Radiance. So the game plan, at least through the first 5.5 minutes, clear from eUnited, and now an answer back from Radiance as well. Let's put as much pressure on this mid lane as we can. Not surprising that Variety assisted in that first kill. You look at the Teleria boots. This has been, what did Aggro word it? The flavor of the month there for a little while in Phase 1 was this movement speed build, especially on someone like the tier. So Teleria boots to start off, a little extra movement speed right off the get-go. So Variety playing exactly how he wants to. Gets some movement speed, rotates over, helps find that first kill. Benji's going to have to be hyper aware of where his lane opponent is.
It's the second time in a row that, you know, we get to, well, second phase in a row where we get to talk about it, but it's what's enabling Variety to make rotations like that to the mid lane, right? I mean, you have Scream just off the mark on getting that kill, and Variety doesn't let it last. Now he's in a good position to make several rotations like that.
Oh, he blinks forward onto Adapting, who has to use his beads here. Snoopy waiting in the wings, looking for that pluck. Blink, pluck, back up and over. Adapting nearly over his wall. A game of inches there maybe saves the Thor's life. Snoopy sniffs out a small rotation, but Adapting having to go back. That's going to open things up for Scream to maybe catch up a little bit here in this jungle. So you got to like this as well, I think, from eUnited. You've started to send Snoopy on these early rotations, force a roar to blink away. It's eUnited really carrying the pressure in the first 7 minutes.
And that's the thing, dictating the pace of the game for 7 minutes against Radiance is impressive. I mean, they've almost got themselves a 2,000 gold lead, hovering around that 1,500 mark right now. And, I mean, that's just phenomenal in and of itself. You can let that one stew for a little bit. But there are these little, you know, desynchronizations, specifically what I just saw there in the solo lane. You know, you get the beads of your Variety. Snoopy's made this rotation, so you want something to work. The pluck comes through, but they don't really have the kill potential until Fearless comes back online, and Variety's not able to get into a good position. It felt like they really wanted to commit, and that was around the time Snoopy ults, and that's where it starts to fall apart for me, because it just didn't feel like a kill was going to happen, but they wanted to try and make something happen. It's no fault against eUnited for maybe getting hype about trying to take down someone on Radiance, but I think that they can slow it down, take a breath, and recognize that you have control. I mean, the pace of the game is absolutely yours. You're driving everything right now. And so, if you aren't able to get a kill, there's no need to sweat it.
The big things that you've done now, if you're eUnited, are slow down Adapting. Hasn't affected anything yet. Granted, Scream hasn't either, but this Thor carries so much weight with it in the early. Gold Fury now started. Aurora in range. Boulder a little bit too early, and eUnited lock down the Fury. Down comes Adapting. Aurora is there for the kill onto Snoopy. Windfire wheels from Scream. That'll toss the Thor up into the sky, but Cyclone Spin rotates over, and the wall from Adapting. It works this time around. Scream, he'll heal himself. Watch out for VMT to do the final bit of damage. So it is Gold Fury locked down for eUnited. A kill picked up elsewhere earlier on, but Radiance, they're able to pluck themselves back a couple. Variety now, maybe under the eye of Radiance here. He's going to have to dodge, knock up Adapting. Good damage here from Variety. He'll likely go down, and it's Adapting who ends up getting the kill. So Radiance pull back 3 big ones, but eUnited get the Gold Fury.
Yeah, pretty much just like that, that entire Gold Fury disappears. It's great still in terms of experience, but you lose 3 kills in the process, you're pretty much right back, actually a little worse off than you were prior to the Gold Fury. I think you maybe have to look at it. Scream goes up into the air. The team doesn't seem to want to fight, whether that was Scream trying to save his own life or Scream trying to set up a kill. Either way, he falls right back down into the waiting hands of Radiance. Not where you want to be. And then Variety, again, just a little too far forward. You know, when you're controlling the pace of the game, there is a level of knowledge of how aggressive can we be. Am I too far forward that you have to possess, and it feels like eUnited maybe let the pace get a little away from them. I like the aggression, but I don't think it's, well, obviously it didn't pay off there. 3 kills
Right.
and a pretty big swing for them. You got to pick up that pace and at least hold on to it, because otherwise, just one more fight like that for Radiance and they're in the lead, and everything in these first 10 minutes is nullified.
That's the threat from Radiance, is that kind of slow play in this early game, and then they will suddenly blow you out of the water all at once in a team fight not unlike that. These big 3-kill, 4-kill, sometimes deicide type swings from Radiance. Dime a dozen for this squad, and that's a good thing here in this case. So eUnited have to feel confident, comfortable with what they've built here for themselves, but always have to be aware of the potential that Radiance bring. We haven't really seen Adapting initiate on a lot of fights just yet, sort of coming in on the back end of a few, but the Thor now finally building that 1-level lead over Scream in the jungle for eUnited. The Wingblade, maybe an interesting pick here, Gormizer. Might have to return to it in a second, as Adapting is going to look to follow up on an engagement here.
Good
Double
stun.
Snoopy melted. Cyclone Spin grabs the kill. Stun onto Guy J. But Radiance maybe only looking for that. BMT misses with the ultimate. The last snipe not there. Aurora there for the follow-up, though. Driving strike on back. Nice banish, but Cyclone Spin picks up a couple. What a rotation from Radiance.
Guy J doing literally everything in his power, save for beads there to make things go his way, and didn't even need them overall. But again, just pulling it back like it's nothing. We had highlighted the duo lane. I don't expect to see a lot in the first few minutes from Guy J. He's Freya. You see that Ring of Hecate finished now, but realistically, he's still not going to have the same boxing potential against a Rom until, I would argue, maybe 1 more, 2 more items. A hastened ring to get some attack speed on there. That's when he's going to get that truly deadly power spike that he needs in order to start fighting the way that we expect to see out of Guy J. And now they're down 5-1, Dave. Like, this is where things get awkward. The lead is still in favor of eUnited for gold, but if your fights can't be cleaned up, then things start to fall apart. Lucky for them, they are starting to approach this portion of the game where it is going to be, these fights, 2v1, that can help things go in your favor.
Try to lock down Aurora, but some good healing on the back end from the Hercules will keep him alive. So Hurrywin and Snoopy combining for another little bit of engagement. We've seen that a few times so far this game. Benji now maybe looking for a blue buff invade, but it'd be a 2v1, so maybe not well sought out. Kind of back to Scream, though. Interesting pickup, Gore, maybe in this Winged Blade, prioritizing a little move speed.
Yeah.
Some CC reduction, a little health right on the top end.
I think the reduction is going to be helpful, and the CCR that comes through. Everybody on Radiance is bringing some form. Unfortunately, the slow can only help so much, and that's the downside of it. Yes, you're going to be immune to slows. You might not have to use your ult to get away from those, but if you're using your ult to get away from Adapting's dunks anyway, I don't know that you're really buying yourself a lot of time. In fact, maybe putting off your power curve here for Scream. We saw that missed First Blood kind of affect eUnited. Now Scream's not as big a factor, kind of a living sash until he can maybe get some more damage online.
You look towards some of the setup, of course, what Scream is going to provide. A lot of times we've seen teams combine this Naja with sort of these heavy skill shot ultimates. You get free lockdown and then kind of a free snipe on the back end of it. So United, not a lot of that, but still locking down single targets is going to be strong for United. You pair that with a Sobek as well, so you start to maybe look towards the composition, Gore, that United has built versus what Radiance have, and it's maybe picking out individual targets is the way United are going to look to go.
Well, unfortunately for them, it feels like every time they go to pick out an individual target, somebody on Radiance is waiting for them and kind of stops it before it can start. Scream maybe being the example there. Looking forward, maybe he's just looking for an experience camp, and ultimately Variety's able to steal it away, but he gets spotted out and takes a lot of damage in the process. And it's not necessarily how you want to see this going. He's one of the top engagers for eUnited. Between him, Variety, and Snoopy, I think in this early game you expected a little more out of the Naja, much like we do out of the Thor and the Hercules versus Benji when he finally does rotate over. But between Variety and Benji, it really is going to just be who can scoop up more backliners with their abilities, right? And having Fearless on a slightly lesser cooldown, maybe going to favor Variety through all of that. He's been winning his lane as well, so he's coming out just a smidge ahead right now. But it is going to be how many beads can you get that maybe open up the opportunity for something like Snoopy to grab somebody, Heroin to get a good ult, things like that. Because otherwise, United, their team fight is maybe a little one note. I think they have a lot of good elements to it. It's just how they fit it all together.
Right, and then you look at, adapting his ability to engage. Aurora, of course, with the push and pull, often on one target, but we've seen some big Hercules engages there as well.
Yes.
I kind of want to look at the Rom and Freya dynamic we have here, and might get a good look at it over this Oni Fury from range. Variety lockdown by BMT here. Snipes down, have taken almost all of Scream's health bar. Some sustain from the Cupid, though, is going to get the jungler back in the fight. Oni Fury half HP, double knockback by Aurora here. Fields of Love down onto the Hercules. Excavate used, Hurrywind grabs the kill. But right back in goes Scream, won't connect with the ultimate, and Big Man Tings locks down the kill. Whirlwind of Rage and Steel from Benji. That's going to melt down some health from Guy J. It's a 2-for-1. Radiance come out ahead, and now they're looking at the Fury.
And just a good example right there. I mean, Aurora's able to go in. Yeah, he loses his life for it, but they had so much available for them for re-engage on the side of Radiance that they're still able to keep going. I mean, Variety's trying to fight, and if they can pick up some kills here, it might make it a little more worthwhile for United. They almost need it.
Uh-oh. Oh, Cyclone Spin didn't know Hurrywind was around the corner there, but he sure was. So Cyclone takes a tumble, but now Hurrywind is maybe overstayed. He'll heal himself up just a little bit, dashes off to the side, might get the stun down as well. Adapting, taken low, has to use both of his actives, and that barely keeps him alive, but it sure does. Benji will get Hurrywind as well. Balanced on a knife edge is that fight, but Radiance get the advantage.
All right, Dave, what's the opposite of worth? Because that's the word for United's fight there. I mean, they
Not
lose
worth.
virtually everything and all of that. I mean, they lose kills left and right. They lose team fights before and after. Oh, and the Oni Fury that's now going to give pressure over to Radiance. Yeah, you picked up Cyclone Spin. That's the silver lining in all of this. That's a good kill. But now Adapting's 4-0 and 3. You burned a lot of relics, though. Beads are still up on Big Man Tings and Cyclone Spin, so maybe something else to burn there. There's some openings right now for eUnited. I just don't know that they have the experience and the lead they need to make things happen. They're definitely solo rolling this. But I don't know. If fights are going to go that way, we're just going to watch 3-4 more of them go the way of Radiance before they end up winning. So you have to completely change your pace of team fight.
Right, eUnited not in a horrible spot as far as gold goes. I mean, 1.1 even thousand effectively, 17 minutes into the game. Not bad. It's really, to your point, Gore, that experience department, about 4,000 XP for Radiance. So those small things, damage numbers a little bit higher for Radiance in some of these fights here. I look towards Scream as well, and the impact that both of these junglers had in that previous fight. And Scream looked for that ultimate to lock down one target, but kind of off to the side and adapting with the rest of that kit, able to lock down just a little bit more. Hopefully, if you're United, that type of engage difference, not something that plagues you as the game goes on.
Yeah, again, once you hit 20, there's a ceiling to it, right? It doesn't matter what your experience is after that point. It just maybe correlates to how much farm you're getting in the jungle, but you can see that through gold. And so that is always like the beneficial mark of a game. Hey, we've fallen super far behind, but no matter what, in terms of levels, we'll catch up eventually. It is going to be items that maybe make the difference. Right now, though, I think United are keeping pretty good pace item-wise. The only big difference is maybe between Guy J right now and Cyclone Spin. But realistically, Guy J has all the items online that he needs, finishes that Hasten Ring, and he's got the level lead as well. So everything that is coming up for this Freya is coming up for this Freya, and that is the pivot point for me. I think right now Radiance are going to be strong because Cyclone Spin rotating in is going to hit a little bit harder than Guy J. I think a lot of the control they have over a team fight and their initiation is a little bit better than eUnited, but I think eUnited's full team fight when all 5 of them are together is just going to, well, at least surprise them. Maybe not knock them out of the park, but it is going to cause them to change their priority. If you don't focus down Guy J, I think Scream and Hurrywind are going to be able to do a lot. Variety is going to have a lot of control, which can either lock you down for one of those 3 carries or potentially just set you up to be out of the fight for a little bit of time if you're someone like Big Man or Cyclone.
Just now we saw a really small skirmish onto Benji. United was there in numbers, but elected not to collapse in. Maybe just a little nervous with lack of vision on the right-hand side that Radiance were there to collapse in just a few moments later. Benji is now pulled one level ahead of Variety in a game where Variety had pulled out the early lead. Both Tier 1 towers now down over in the short lane, so somewhat even on rotation potential out of those two. Of course, Relic Dagger, a popular move speed item for Variety here. Pyromancer, sometimes see this one skirmished over a little bit. 20 minutes into the game, might see some here. Up, down, over onto Snoopy. Back he goes. Half of his HP. My God, where did it go? The stun down onto Benji. Fields of Love, slow down, Roar, and Benji. Excavate, not gonna do enough damage. The root is there, but Snoopy stays alive. You've invested so much into Snoopy if you're Radiance, and now Variety can start to control the backline. Adapting, Anvil of Dawn looking for Scream this time around. Frenzy popped from over the wall if you're Snoopy, but a disengage from both sides.
And it doesn't seem like eUnited were able to lock down one target enough to get a kill, but eUnited able to get away with essentially just a lot of murder. There's a lot of moments where they should not be walking away with those wins. In fact, Variety even going back in to contest the Pyro.
Variety, oh, the banish is big from Guy J, and he's gonna keep Variety alive here, finally. Adapting will get the kill, but Benji, he's gonna get popped by Guy J here. It's the pluck on back from Aurora. Stunned underneath the FG is Snoopy, but Cyclone is the one who's aggroed it. 1-for-1 trade on the back end. Pyromancer taken by Radiance.
Snoopy is giving me just flashbacks to all my games. Whenever you play support and you see someone's health bar get melted that fast, you feel bad. No, my games are not particularly great, but when you're a support player, you always feel that way. Like, that's just, you only ever see your health bar when it disappears that fast, and I can feel for the fact that he's probably stressed out of his mind twice in that fight. He is essentially one hit from dead, and he's able to get out alive both times. So good on eUnited keeping him going, but it is that thing, there's a lot of health in his build, but when you don't have those protections, or conversely, when there's so much penetration that Radiance have already picked up, it's just difficult to stay alive. And I think this Sobek, unfortunately right now, isn't able to find the grabs that they want. You send him forward to set up these kills, and unfortunately he just hasn't been able to start it, because by the time he's in a good pluck range or finds the target he wants, he's half health or lower, so he does get taken away there. But Variety, I think, has a good saving grace mindset for eUnited. Goes in for the fight. Again, even if things don't always end up coming the way of eUnited, I like how they're taking these fights. They just have to clean up where their prioritization is. You can feel how five, members of Radiance are playing together. eUnited still feels a little disjointed.
Not just now, at least. Over the Primal Fury, 3 of them go. Radiance, a bit of sleep at the wheel there, as eUnited are going to take that Primal Fury down right back to even. Goes the gold here in this game. And I guess kind of to that conversation, Gore, the worry we had was that one node engage. Snoopy's not hitting the plucks. If Scream's maybe not locking down the target, it's difficult for eUnited to find this big fight. He kind of has to haphazardly throw a frenzy over the wall, but Variety can engage for you just fine. Big man Tings is absolutely deleted as Aurora back from behind the wall, still under chase by Hurrywind. The stun will not connect here this time around. Wasn't in all that much danger anyway, but a big pick there. That is the presence that this composition brings. They'll pick you out. They'll push that 5v4 advantage to the tune of a Tier 1 tower.
Now, I was wondering if they'd want to go for more. They can start the dance around the Fire Giant, but it feels a little risky with everything that Radiance have alive. All 4 ults available for the members that are standing. With no BMT, I guess they feel confident enough on eUnited to try and go in on this.
Adapting takes to the skies here. Fire Giant reset now. Scream is going to use his ultimate over onto Benji. Down goes Adapting, but the rest of Radiance wasn't there for the follow-up. Variety locks down the Thor, and now Benji pops his Thorns. Looks to use his ultimate, but eUnited, they backpedal, re-engage. Benji tossed back now. Hurrywind still alive, and Guy J's got the damage. 2 for none as we stand. eUnited push Radiance back.
Look, his slash line right now isn't that amazing. 2, 2, and 3 doesn't necessarily stand out, but Guy J affecting 5 of the 7 kills. A lot of the assists he's gotten were him dealing a majority of the damage and somebody else being able to clean it up. I think it's been good play now that this Freya has joined the fray over there for them. That between Guy J and Hurrywind, you have to decide. Hurrywind is going to be hitting a little bit from his autos, a little bit from his abilities. I think his build dips just tastefully into both ends of Cupid. And Guy J, if you don't pay attention to him, it's just going to be sleeper damage. All of a sudden, you're dead when you just went in full health. How did that happen?
Wow.
Well, the answer is almost always Freya.
It's a Roar who's now close by to maybe stall out this FG. Scream connects with his ultimate once more. A Roar pinned against the wall, and Hurrywind grabs the kill. Fire Giant half HP. Radiance not in range to steal it away. BMT has tossed out his ultimate from range. Snoopy up in front with BMT and Cyclone Spin. Both the squishies too far forward here. Big man Ting stunned down. Snoopy grabs the kill. Tier 2 tower. Safety for the moment for Cyclone Spin. Fire Giant, 5 members strong for eUnited.
Beads burned, though, for Big Man Tings. That's maybe not going to play a big role for the next 50 seconds while he waits out in the penalty box. But on the other side, for Cyclone Spin, it is definitely going to affect this fight. And all of those ults that Radiance used to try and engage there on eUnited ends up coming back to haunt them because Cyclone Spin didn't quite have his available to try and snipe and steal that. Did go for an Astral Arrow through the wall. There's only so much you can hope for from one basic attack going through the wall as compared to your ultimate. And so good from eUnited. Again, everything about what was happening in that kind of mid-game period, that you know, maybe 8 to 15 minute mark, just seems to have been washed over. All the little mistakes, they're now just completely polished into good gameplay. And Variety, I think even more so. This build, especially now that he has that Mantle online, the Spirit Robe online, he's hard to CC. If you do CC him, he's going to be hard to lock down. And if you can't do either of those, he's got the movement speed to move around and get into the backline consistently. So you always have to be worried about him. And because of him commanding such a present threat, now Snoopy, as he gets some more protections online, going to be commanding more of a threat at the very front of the fight, Radiance are going to have a lot more trouble getting to Hurrywind and Gaijay and shutting them down.
It has been an absolute nosedive into eUnited territory here for the gold and XP charts as eUnited regain control of the game. XP maybe not as important, just support's trying to catch up, but it is Aurora at level 16, still has 4 levels to go to reach that level cap. And it's just going to get worse in the gold department. eUnited still have all 5 members with this Fire Giant, no rotation out to defend that tier 2 tower from Radiance this time around. Looks like eUnited might just waltz their way in to this Phoenix here on this side. Frenzy is going to get popped and absolutely melt down the health bar from the Phoenix. Up to the sky, goes adapting down. He finds Gaijay, but Gaijay stays alive. Well used on the Aegis and the beads there to survive the adapting onslaught. Benji won't find much either as he double leaps away, and it's a Roar once more, locked in behind eUnited here. The sun is down. This Hercules is absolutely tanky, but Hurrywind grabs the kill.
And I don't know what to highlight there. The CC chain from eUnited and how ridiculous it is that Aurora got locked down that long. There was not much he could do. Or the fact that Gaijay walked into the jungle, 1 hit away from dead, and came back full health, ready to continue going in on this engagement. And that is probably the biggest play. Again, I said 2-2 and 3 wasn't that big. Now he's 2-2 and 6. He's not the one getting the kills, but he is setting up so much plays. That ult and retreat from him was big, and the sash from Scream just continues setting things up.
Here we go. It's Variety in behind Radiance. Benji knocked aside. That's my 1 a game. Here we go, eUnited, and you're going to back yourselves off. All right, they get the mid lane Phoenix. Left side Phoenix also taken down. Smart, 45 seconds left on that Fire Giant buff. The Primal Fury, though, is still available. So you talk about a minute and a half from now, Gore, where Radiance, the entire left side of the map, including the mid lane, broken open in their base. Maybe the most difficult situation to be defending a Fire Giant against. An eUnited shot out of a cannon here in game number 1. Slow goings off the start, but Hurrywind at 5-1 and 4 has assisted heavily in this 13,000 gold and XP lead.
There are usually ways to have someone over and left that can somehow clear a wave or two and then get back into the fight around a Fire Giant. Usually the number 1 I look for is teleport, and nobody on Radiance has it. Normally it's your solo laner. Normally Benji would probably have something like that. But the Blink Thorns necessary for him to feel the impact this game means that whoever's over and left trying to clear fire minions, if they don't continue pushing up the way they are now, is not going to be present for a Fire Giant fight. And honestly, even if they do push it up to mid lane, by the time the Fire Giant dance is really going on, they're going to be right back at the Phoenix starting to threaten the Titan. So you have to be very aware of that. And then you have to ask yourself as Radiance who exactly is going to be the fastest clearer and the one that's least important for a team fight. And honestly, right now, you know, he's 2, 3, and 4. It's maybe not the worst slash line, but BMT hasn't had the impact I typically expect out of him this game so far. And so maybe on this Persephone, it's maybe worthwhile having him be the one to clear that wave all the way around. But he also has his ult right now, so it's worth keeping him around. It could change a lot in a game. But you can't get picked off here if you're Radiance. That Fire Giant is respawned, and one kill will change everything.
Variety works around the corners. BMT from range will toss out his ultimate. 4 members of Radiance looking at this tier. Benji much the same on the opposite side of the fight. Adapting will use the Anvil of Dawn to lock down Variety, but you've only taken about 80% of his HP. Variety still stands. A big engagement ultimate used there by Adapting. Same as Big Man Tings, but some important ults traded out by eUnited as well.
And those fire minions, we were talking about them earlier, nobody's looking at them. Someone's going to have to back, or that Titan is going to take a lot of damage. But they're also pouring in mid, and that's the danger of all of this. You have to be so aware of 2 lanes when your Phoenixes are down, and you're in an awkward fight around the Fire Giant.
Benji close. Aurora is as well. Frenzy used. Fields of Love down, and so is the FG. eUnited has gotten this one. Benji taken low. Hurrywinds killing spree. Guy J, same for him. eUnited, they pick up the FG, pick up a couple of kills, and now their eyes are turned towards the right side Phoenix. Big Man Things, he's going to get stunned here. Has to use the ultimate. Does some good damage, but Scream, he'll lock him down. It's Cyclone and Adapting against the world.
And right now, I mean, just being able to tear through, you have 2 Phoenixes that are still down, or at least one that just respawned should go down. The Fire Minions are with you. This is looking good for eUnited.
eUnited, they're going to melt down this Titan here. Adapting close by, but the Titan's health bar is gone. eUnited in 30 minutes, almost even. Take Radiance to the edge, and a 15,000 gold lead will push them over. eUnited strike first.
And Dave, this isn't, yesterday. This isn't some crazy defense that keeps them in the game, and then it goes to the distance where we can see that Freya start to really showcase things. This is just outright winning team fights, really, really good 5v5. Guy J, you could feel his impact coming through. If I'm watching yesterday and this game 1 right now, I'm banning Freya from this point forward. You cannot let Guy J have the impact he's having on this pick, because otherwise it's all going to fall apart for you. But I think there's also something to be said. Hurrywinds, I mean, we were talking about him, loves the Yanis, loves some of those off-meta picks, but running this Cupid, yesterday we had a lot of kind of standard meta picks for him as well, playing the Merlin. He's been looking really good. This game was really solid for him. Feels like there's a distinct strategy eUnited have coming into this week, and it's changed up a lot.
eUnited 1 game away now against Radiance, of all teams, of taking their first win here in the SPL. That's it for game number 1. We'll go back to Finch to break this one down.
Dave, I can't believe I heard you just say that, man, but you're exactly right. eUnited, 0-7, I think, right now, are currently 1 game away from beating Radiance. We're up at the top of our standings. And Gore made an excellent point. This wasn't some coin-flippy late-game team fight that they won that got them this win. eUnited were in control of this game. I got Miffla here with me to help me break down what we just saw. I mean, just think back, there's a point in the game where Radiance were up 5-1 in the kills, but eUnited still had like a 2K gold lead. I mean, they were in the lead for basically all of this game.
Playing the map, playing together, team fights, it all really comes down to that. And you know what? I got to shout it out. Hurrywin, phenomenal performance on the Cupid.
Yeah.
Guy J pops off. And you know what? Variety, this man was creating infinite space on the tier. It just really pans out. And I think it is a huge point to make. And it was right for Gore to say that it wasn't a 50-minute game. It wasn't, well, they just kind of snuck away with one team fight in the late game. It was that they controlled the pace. And even when they were losing team fights, they were ahead in gold, as you already pointed out. These guys are looking like a convincing competitor. And that's why we see so much respect put on eUnited despite their standings.
And I have always kind of thought that Hurrywin is a critical piece to making this eUnited team work, because he has the potential to be one of the very best mid laners in our league when he's able to play consistently. We see it from him all the time when he plays things like the Giannis or pulls out some of his pocket picks. He certainly has that high-end potential, but I feel like we got to see it from him this game on this Cupid. Something for eUnited was just clicking in this game. And Miff, I think this is why, we've kind of had this feeling in the back of our minds when eUnited comes up on the screen that they're one of the teams that we always keep thinking would be able to convert eventually into some wins. It's because they keep taking individual games, just not whole sets. They always look competitive. I don't know if anyone has more 3-game sets than them with this many losses. They keep getting this close. They just have to figure out how to consistently turn that into set wins.
I've got faith in them completely. I mean, if you're going to be able to take 1 game off of Radiance, that tells me that you're going to be able to take games off of just about anyone and potentially sets as well. eUnited, are nuts. Each one of these individual players are mechanically talented. Variety, Scream, Hurrywin, Snoopy, Gaijay. If you see any of those guys on your ranked team, you're thanking the ELO gods. I mean, there's a reason they're in the SPL. It's a dub, right? And I think they're just now starting to show us that they're going to bring it to the SPL as well. That's hugely exciting to watch.
It is, man. It's exciting to watch them. And we haven't yet talked about how Radiance, I think, had some struggles here in this game. I mean, obviously, the kills were there, right? They were finding tons of picks, but in the teamfight stage, they seemed a bit scattered. Even though Adapting had a great early game, I thought, he was kind of hard killing them throughout the beginning of this game. There were some times where he went in a little bit alone, a little bit ahead of everybody else, maybe trying to make a big play to turn fights around, but getting caught out. Radiance have some things to clean up here after that very first game.
Yeah, I think you're right to point out Adapting. It was him in particular at the Fire Giant fight where he tried to disrupt the follow-up damage off of one of Naja's ultimates through Anvil of Dawn, and he unfortunately gets caught out on that hammer trying to escape. But that's the type of plays that you kind of ride the line on Thor. If you dunk in, you're committing your body. You're in the enemy team. He found multi-man dunks. It's just that there wasn't really any follow-up from his team, and I think that's a bit of a miscommunication on how much range do you guys have. Are you able to follow up if I find this dunk? I think if they clean that up even just a little bit, a lot of those team fights that were potentially game throwing can become game winning in the future.
Well, as we move into the picks and bans for game number 2, I do want to make it clear, you ain't going to catch your boy planting the flag on the blaming Adapting train, especially with the phase 2 that he's having right now. He's been playing lights out. Just maybe a couple of things where it didn't quite work out for them in that first game. And so I think that we were saying at the end of the picks and bans here, Mifflin, that both eUnited and Radiance had good team comps coming into this one. I don't know if it necessarily is a picks and ban issue that Radiance need to make a big adjustment here. This felt a little bit more to me like the actual execution once they got in game.
It was definitely play on field. You'll never hear me disparage a team composition that is comprised of Thor, Persephone. I'll stop there because I don't need to say anymore. But like that's nuts in of itself. And they had Rom as well, another highly contested top pick. I think you really can't look at P's and B's there. They both got away with some pretty strong drafts. I think it is 100% execution on the field, and that's why we're seeing a lot of parity in the bans again. Radiance identified immediately that they can't really look back on their P's and B's as a real loss factor.
Yeah, I don't think that they can either, so I wouldn't be surprised if we see some fairly similar stuff happening in these picks and bans. So far, it's basically exactly the same. Radiance banning away the Nemesis and the Ola Run, eUnited banning away the Amaterasu and the Cthulhu. Now, this last spot, I believe, is where we saw eUnited ban away the Neath, if I'm not mistaken. I wonder if we see an adjustment from eUnited there, but there isn't really a reason to. Obviously, things went really well for them in Game 1, so maybe line up with that same ban again. That's exactly the case, which means that Radiance, if they'd like to, can run it back, get that Persephone one more time for big man teams, and then see what the response is from eUnited.
And I think you absolutely should. There's not many gods that control the game that well. You might consider Freya one of them. The damage output is absolutely insane. But I think when you're talking about where Radiance lost last game, it was around that team fight phase. And Persephone might just be one of the best team fight mages in the game. Oh, you picked me off early. I'm still going to return damage. Oh, I missed my ultimate. Well, you're all crippled and taking damage anyway. It's such a strong pick in those jungle fire giant oriented fights that I think it's interesting to see that Radiance go ahead and pass up on it.
And you're not going to hear me trying to counter Gore a whole lot. And he made that point after game number 1. That guy looks like an entirely different player on some of these different picks, like when he's able to get the Rum, when he's able to get the Freya. So maybe Radiance recognize that same thing. They're taking it away from him and trying to force him to prove he can make it happen on some other picks. Now we get the chance to see if eUnited want to prioritize it here right away. I think in a world where Radiance have already picked Freya, you don't have to rush to that Rum for him. You can probably get away with getting it third, and it looks like eUnited agree. They're going to prioritize that Sobek alongside the Persephone.
And that Sobek got huge value last game as backline peel and engage potential. He was able to rotate out of lane very early on and make his impact known in mid around level 4. And I don't think he went back to duo lane just about ever, just making sure that Gaijay was allowed to farm up. I like the draft so far from eUnited. They're absolutely right to leave Rom available, because if Radiance decide to take it away themselves, then you're likely going to be tossing Freya in either mid or jungle. Not exactly where you want to see her. You want her in that long lane where she can farm up freely. So essentially, they just get a little bit of a buy phase in that first pick.
Yeah, that's just good awareness from eUnited there. If they are planning on top 3 picking that ROM, then this would be the way to do it. Radiance, though, do take the Cupid. And we were saying they didn't have to make a ton of adjustments here in the picks and bans, but I think the ones they have made here, Mifflin, are pretty smart. Taking away the Cupid from Heroin, he obviously popped off, and this Freya from Guy, even though it means they're going to be handing back over some of the same good picks they had last game, I think kind of forcing eUnited to show that with a different look, they can still look as strong is very smart from Radiance. And without much surprise, eUnited do end up taking that ROM.
We got a little bit of a draft switch up here. It seems like Radiance are trying to run that eUnited look and see if they can wear it better. I like the draft so far. This Cabrakan could flex in a solo. You could very easily see it in the jungle. I think he's got a little bit more impact inside of that jungle role, especially meshed up with Cupid and mid. The ultimate combo there, drop Fields of Love. Well, you're not walking out of it. There's a Cabrakan wall behind you now. And barring that, you're stunned. You're tremored. He's got so much CC, so much damage potential that I think it should really work out. And into Persephone, a god that's only got 1 natural escape inside of that leap, you use that one, you're just going to be a sitting duck for this Cabrakan.
Now, it's interesting to see if Radiance continue this trend of trying to take away some of those Game 1 picks that work. They've got 1 more ban, and I wonder if they're considering trying to take Scream off that Najah from Game 1. Remember, he narrowly missed out on getting First Blood back in that first game where he was able to hit the sash, I think it was the ring bounce, that was just barely off the mark and prevented him from getting that first kill. So wouldn't be surprised if exactly this, Radiance are trying to take that one away from Scream and limit him a bit more. And then to your point about how Cabrakan might flex to the jungle, eUnited ban away the Robin and the Unbots. It looks like they're not completely sold that they're guaranteed going to be taking it there, so they're limiting some of Adapting's other strong picks.
Yeah, it makes me think that they're pretty sure it's likely to go into the soul lane, so that's a very smart ban from them. Variety going to the tier again. A good look. My man looked phenomenal on it last game, creating a ton of space. Might as well reprise that performance. eUnited might have just snuck away with a straight-up better draft this time around. That's pretty scary to think about. But Radiance as well have got a lot of extremely strong tools. We saw Gaijay popping off on that Freya. Well, you can expect the exact same thing from Cyclone Spin. Sun Wukong getting picked up is interesting. That's another god that can flex both into solo and jungle, keeping us on our toes just a little bit.
That's what it feels like here from Radiance, still getting some value out of some of these flex picks here as we get later and later into this draft. Now, it is looking like with this Freya locked in, they're going to be giving that Cupid over towards Tings. So we're going to get our last bit of clarity with this next pick. It's the Thor coming in, Adapting going to run it back after that excellent early game he had. No complaints there, which means that likely we'll be seeing the Wukong, solo you'd think Cabrakan support, but Miff, where are you landing on this one? Does this Radiance draft look clear-cut to you, or do you think it's still up in the air?
Man, I wish you didn't say that brings any more clarity at all, because I'm 3 ways cross-eyed, my ankles are broken. I don't know what Radiance is going for here, because Thor solo is incredibly strong, and it's got a decent matchup into the tier in that you can just clear from a range and then rotate out-rotate the tier if you can't beat him in lane. Sun Wukong jungle could absolutely work. We've seen Cabrakan support work out in the past, and I could say every single one of those pieces about each individual god in a different role, and I think that might be the strategy for Radiance here. They might not even know where they want to put each one of these individual pieces yet. That's got to be weighing on eUnited's minds.
But it looks like they're going to stay home at this point. Scream, without the Najah, without the Ratatosker, without the Nemesis, 3 jungle bans just from Radiance, plus the Robin and the Unbots ban from eUnited. He comes all the way down towards this Daji, often thought of as a great beads burner with great potential to stick to some of these mid laners when they're low on movement. Do you like this last pick here for eUnited?
It's very strong, and it's arguably very potent into Freya. You blink in, you use the 1, she's going to take a ton of damage, and if she goes in the air and lives with a sliver of health, you've got the dot damage to finish her off. And having that beads burner on your team when you're matched up with a Tyr and a Sobek and a Persephone, you're only going to get huge value off of it. I think it fits out with this comp incredibly well, but it's not often that we get to see Daji in a Radiance game, and it's not going to Adapting.
That's right. I feel like Adapting, the one who I think of as kind of synonymous with this Daji. He had tons of great games with this one throughout his career and even just back in Phase 1. But certainly Scream, one would think could play it at just a high level. If we're going into this game, I did not think we'd be saying it with eUnited having a chance to 2-0 Radiance. Do they have the tools where you think that's possible here?
It could easily work. It depends on how well they play around this Freya in the early game, and then the team fight phase rolls around. I think Radiance have a slight edge insofar as early game just because of all these pieces. Thor going to be able to control the map incredibly well. Cabrakan should find pressure in whatever lane they decide to toss him in, or the jungle. I'm still not sold on it. But eUnited, if they're able to make it to 25, 30 minutes from even, I think we might be in a miracle situation.
Well, don't worry, Mifflin. We'll get those eyes uncrossed by sending it down to Game 2 and getting some clarity.
Yeah, I'll help you out here, Miff. No extra information on my side, and I can tell you now it's Benji on the Wukong solo, adapting in the jungle on that Thor, of course, and then Aurora will be playing the Cabrakan in support core. Cabrakan has been a journeyman here as of late, hasn't he? I mean, he has gone solo lane into the jungle. Now we'll see a little bit more out of him in the support role. These guys slotting into a lot of different spots.
He wanders around, and honestly, I think having him over here in the hands of Aurora, this composition has such high potential to just outright thrash eUnited. I mean, I could see this getting ahead very early on, stomping them in 20, 24 minutes, and then we're in Game 3. But I also feel like it starts to fall apart the later it gets. I mean, we haven't necessarily seen Cabrakan swing the way that you want. Maybe the support role, maybe the stuns, the setup that he brings is going to be solid. But I think you give her a win, maybe his performance on this Persephone being the linchpin for eUnited. If it's just as good as the Cupid, if not better, then it's absolutely going to stray that way. Gaijay's back on a comfort pick. Screams on Daji, which is not something we've seen a lot in Phase 2. In fact, I don't think we've seen at all in Phase 2 here. But she was running the show for Radiance in Phase 1. And then Variety's comfortable, Snoopy's comfortable. We just saw them have great games here. So there's a lot of little question mark factors for both eUnited and for Radiance. I think it just depends on the pace Radiance set for the game, or if they let eUnited set it, much like game number 1.
Well, adapting was the pace setter, on the back end of some early engagements there. But to your point, eUnited took things over mid to late, and then we're dictating everything. So I think maybe, Gore, a lot of that for Radiance hangs on adapting here, who had a great game previously, and now once he, again, as always with this sword, this level 5 crest that you start to hit where you need to make sort of an impact spread across the map. And we kind of think back now, we're going to see a mirror or a flip-flop of a matchup in the mid lane. The Cupid against the Persephone once again, but it's big man Tings on Cupid and Hurrywind on the Persephone this time around. A lot of pressure from eUnited was focused towards this mid lane in game number 1, Gore, at least right off the bat. Do you think a Persephone-Daji combo still has the potential to lock down big man Tings a few times here in the early?
Absolutely. I mean, if anything, you're going to see a lot of beads usage from big man Tings and adapting, because think about Persephone ult has huge amount of lockdown for either of them if they're standing together. Same thing there for the Daji. Going up on the Powwow could very easily grab and pull in either of those players. It's going to be how eUnited can follow up, or maybe even more so how Radiance can follow up. If they do burn those beads, what they can find Persephone, I mean, Mifflin said it on the desk. She's one of the best teamfight goddesses that you can have in mid, but at the same time, we don't see her power spike this early on. I think that was one of the bigger issues with BMT last game, was he didn't really get that time to be a factor in a lot of the fights. Was bullied early on. By the time the teamfight phase rolled around, got bullied even harder by Variety. Whether it led to a kill or not never really mattered. It just didn't have the presence that you needed out of your mid laner. So now on the Cupid, I think Radiance are going to feel more comfortable. But again, it's mainly because I can't remember when I saw Hurrowind's Persephone. And honestly, the way they're looking today, I don't know if I can make any bases for eUnited on what I've seen out of them in the past, because they're playing like a different team.
Here's a pluck over onto Cyclone Spin. Gaijay takes so much damage in return, my goodness. A lot of that from Aurora. Cyclone Spin, of course, there to turn around the damage. So a small slip here early on for eUnited. You've lost your beats now on Gaijay, Gore, and Cabrakan, once you crest over that level 5, you can just kind of walk at you. So tense moments here for eUnited, or maybe I'll blink at you. Gaijay will have to roll away, but keeps Gaijay on the back foot.
The thing Aurora has going for him here, and this is something Cabrakan brings specifically as a Guardian, you'll see it, it's part of the reason he can work in the jungle as well. But, I mean, the guy has so many different forms of CC, it's so difficult to get away from it.
Scream, beads out to banish. Adapting, he's come to play as well. Pulled back in is Aurora here. Adapting locks in Snoopy off to the side. Body blocks not enough from Gaijay here, and Adapting picks up the first kill of the game. Both junglers make their way to the long lane. And it's Radiance who swing first.
GuyJ, if he
Wow,
had
he's
just
low.
hit level 5 a smidge earlier, those snipes could have potentially come through and maybe made a difference. Either way, first blood onto a Guardian. Good kill for adapting, but not the end of the world for eUnited, so we can't get ahead of ourselves over there. And this is what I expect out of the duo lane. I think it's actually surprising they needed adapting to get it done. But good ganks from the junglers, coming in tandem, kind of works hand in hand. I think Aurora is going to be a nuisance over here. I was trying to say it before that broke out, and you got to see it in that fight. But he's got a stun on his 1. If you do it right, he has a stun on his 2. He's got trembles and trimmers that can come through if he slams the ground, and then his ult makes walls that lock you down. There's so much he can do to CC you away from your team and control that I feel like Aurora should be a huge driving factor. But so far, again, it's maybe been a little slower. There were some good stuns in that last fight, but I almost expected him to be up 1 to 2 kills by now. A lot more pressure. And I feel the same way about last game. The Hercules went a little slower pace than I expected overall. And I think that's the presence that eUnited are commanding right now. And where this Freya comes in, she's not enough damage this early to be reliable to get aggressive with, but it's also too much damage to aggress into, so you couldn't get aggressive last game, and you can't get aggressive this game.
Well, right back to the mid lane is Snoopy here. His ultimate is down. Pluck not ready to go. Aurora taken down to just a few hundred HP. So there's your answer. If eUnited would continue to look towards mid lane for some pressure, and they sure will, as Aurora catches a few of the eUnited ultimates. What is this? Benji taken low. Has to use his ultimate now. Though maybe expected here. Benji has this 1 level lead over Variety. But Wukong into a tier is an interesting matchup to follow along with, and one that Benji's been able to build a small lead with.
And that small lead, I think it means a lot, but again, I'm looking at Teamfight and what they're going to bring. Wukong has a lot of little hidden things in his kit. I mean, yes, the slow maybe is something people think of a lot. Did people realize that there's an attack speed slow in there? It's tied in tandem with it. It's those little things where you're like, huh, why does he have that when it comes through? And that's the greatest thing. He's got good clear. He's got an attack slow. It's 25%, which I think is going to end up affecting GuyJ a little bit later. Stuns that are solid with good damage, but he's very easy to kill.
And when you don't have an ultimate, much harder to get the kill. Scream hits the last one from range, and down goes Benji. This means an immediate rotation from Radiance over to the Gold Fury. BMT quite low here. Hurrywind and GuyJ on the counter rotation. Adapting will go up, but so will GuyJ on the other side. Snipes looking for BMT, saving the last couple. Aurora's pretty low here as well. Adapting will drop down. Radiance confirm the Fury, but Snoopy goes beneath the ground. Aurora maybe not long for this world, and Snoopy will finally get the kill. 3-man stun from Adapting slows down the engagement from eUnited, but Adapting has to burn the beads, and a double banish from Cyclone Spin. eUnited, they're selling out here beneath the tier 1 tower. Scream kills Adapting, Snoopy kills Cyclone Spin. Big win there for eUnited.
I think Variety and Scream's rotation into that fight, that's a disengage
Where'd they
like
come
no
from?
other. I mean, you're in a tier 2 under tier 1. You're safe at that point. At least you should feel safe. Maybe Cyclone is still threatened and recognizes that the scenario isn't the best for him. But then both of them just being able to recognize, wait a minute, we still have these kills, nullify that Fury going the way of Radiance. And while that's still going to be impactful, I think it still pulls the reins back so that eUnited do not have a massive lead after a successful fight like that. It's very similar to what I was thinking last time, except actually in reverse. eUnited this time around seem to be winning all these early game fights, and Radiance are the ones that are seemingly farming better, getting the objective. How it translates into that 5v5 will be important, but I will admit, I have a little less hope in the Cabrakan in a 5v5 fight than I do everything eUnited have bringing. I think Radiance maybe going to have to shuffle a little bit better, and they're all world-class players, so I expect it of them at this point. But it's still going to be difficult to pull off, especially with how eUnited are playing right now.
Scream has his ultimate. Aurora has no way to disengage from it. That means Hurrywind gets the kill. This is the counterpoint to, well, we're maybe concerned that it's kind of a one-pick composition. We lock down somebody and go from there. eUnited are playing it near perfectly, though Radiance still hovering right around 500 gold behind. So Radiance, all things considered, have done a good job of maintaining farm, maintaining relevance in a game where they're being out-killed 5-1. A big difference, though, I think, from Scream here, Gormizer. We saw early pressure from Scream in Game 1, but this time, finally, eUnited are capitalizing on some of it.
Yeah, I think I memed it a little last game when I said there's a certain point where I considered Scream almost just a living sash. Like, it was the CC that Naja brought that really made the difference. But now, because you're Daji, there's a lot more damage on the table.
Right.
His build lends into more damage early on this time around as well. So it's just made it easier to get in there. And Dave, I don't typically feel what almost felt like visceral hate through gameplay, but Scream spammed so many chains onto a roar there, like he wanted to know that you are going to die. Yes, there's a little bit of extra damage, but Aurora was absolutely locked down. There was no getting out of that one. And so I like the way eUnited are playing it right now, just to get themselves further ahead.
It's Stone of Binding now for Aurora. We've seen that as a pretty popular pickup on, well, obviously, what is the flavor text on it? Good for CC heavy gods, and Aurora and Cabrakan is certainly one of those. Cyclone Spin is going to use his ultimate here to escape from Snoopy, who burned the blink. Scream. A little bit low, though, as Benji is here. Dashes right back in. What's the Wukong doing this deep in eUnited's jungle? Another kill over to Scream. This Daji now on a killing spree.
I can only think of a way to say this that comes out inherently BM, so I'm going to preemptively apologize for this. But Wukong is known for staying alive, right? It's one of the only things he can do well. And when you're not doing that, the question does start to fall onto what are you accomplishing in the game. I mean, he's able to CC a lot, he has good knockups, good stuns, but both of those are tied to one ability. His ult maybe gives you some damage, can let you jump into the backline, but right now Benji's getting bullied and he can't really do anything to turn it around. That's the deficit that Wukong brings. If he's able to gank in a team fight or anything like that, that's where the change is going to be. So I'm still looking towards the 5v5 for Radiance to be where they shine. But right now, none of them are getting off to the start they really want. And if eUnited can control this pace, it's right now 1,200 gold. Still very small, but something you can nurture. That Gold Fury, or that Fury now, Oni Fury, spawning up in about 40 seconds, will make a difference if eUnited can get it. It'll take a lead and turn it even further in their favor. Meanwhile, Radiance are starting to look for these skirmishes. I think the 3v3, if it doesn't start going their way soon, it might just fall apart.
Right. Yeah, Benji 0-2 so far on this Wukong. You know, if there's a Venn diagram of, you know, Wukong on one side and songs to CPR to on the other, staying alive is right there in the middle. So Benji has found his way into the death column a couple too many times here. Snoopy, though, on the other hand, has done a great job of burning beads off of Radiance so far up to this point here in this game. Adapting just a few moments ago, has to use that Anvil of Dawn to get away, but Aurora's going to get pulled back in nonetheless. Guy J sniping down, half HP now on Aurora as Snoopy will go underground. So the damage will be there on the other end nonetheless, but can Guy J stay alive? He'll get some help from his support in order to do so. Scream right back in, adapting. Falls down as Hurrywind will output a good bit of damage. Off to the side, and Big Man Tings will strike for the first time this game. Cyclone Spin did a good bit of damage there. Radiance able to pull back one.
I think that's a good kill. Shutting down the Persephone is going to be solid for you, but I'm more so looking at the highlights, which is that Scream played that so well. Forces out the ult from Cyclone and from Adapting. Adapting, I think there was a small moment where maybe he could have tried to come down into the team fight and turn things around, but it was real awkward looking. There were not a lot of plays to be made, and so he ends up landing a little further left of the fight. And because of that, it just became easier to run him down, run the rest of Radiance down. So, you know, like you said, they pull one back here. And killing Persephone, I think, is always going to be great. But it's overshadowed by the great plays eUnited made. And again, that lead just slowly ticking further in their favor. Again, incredibly slowly. But it sets them up for an Oni Fury. And that's, I think, where my eyes always are going to turn.
And, you know, normally, I'd say with Oni Fury, you're purely looking at kind of the left side of the map for these two teams and where the strength is there, but that's kind of a moot point now with what we saw from Variety. I was so surprised a few moments ago, you know, just a moment I didn't look at the minimap, and Variety is suddenly there diving a tier 2 tower over in the long lane, so it really is almost a full team affair now for eUnited should that Fury get started up. Of course, Benji in a position to be able to do that as well, but the little extra move speed for Variety will get him into the fray a little bit longer. But if you do want to kind of put a microscope on the long lane, Gore, this Rom versus Freya matchup is one where you maybe need to start getting used to seeing. And Guy J and Cyclone Spin have both played it pretty well.
I'm trying to think of all the picks that I've seen Gaijay play in case I'm missing one, but right now this ROM has been huge for him.
Yeah, you got a second to think about it, Gore, as Aurora's going to get locked down yet again, and Scream will pick up the kill. Benji plucked back on through, up and over goes Variety to disengage from the fight. Staying alive, says the Wukong, and he's going to get himself out of this one. Aurora, a tough game on this Cabrakan. 0-4-1 out of the long lane. This is the threat of that Cabrakan, right? I mean, if you don't have your blink to engage or disengage, you gotta hope your walls are good enough to help you walk away. I'll hand it over to you in just a moment as Adapting drops down. Radiance take away the Oni Fury, and Adapting will get a kill onto Snoopy at the end of it. Gaijay will outlast that Aegis there. Big man Tings is gonna get a kill onto Hurrywind as well. The snipe's down from Gaijay. That's good for a double. Cyclone Spin sent running. Benji much the same as well. So you start to look at the grand scheme of things here, Gore. Couple kills apiece. A little bit earlier was one for Radiance, but now you get that Fury taken away. A little bit of a swing there for the blue side.
It's just detrimental for eUnited, right? Everything about this game has been in their favor except for the Furies that have come through. They're winning team fights. Even the team fight portion of that feels like it's more in their favor. It's 3 for 2 in totality. But they lose the important part, the Gold Fury, the Oni Fury. That means a lot of pressure on the map that is now having to be dealt with on them. They can't get aggressive elsewhere, which is keeping Radiance alive. Otherwise, we'd be looking at a completely different game state. I mean, we'd be looking at eUnited potentially winning over Radiance in the next 10 minutes as opposed to slowing it down, which is what Radiance has done a great job of doing. They're hanging on to this, and not even by a thread. I mean, it's virtually even at this point. I think a few hundred gold now starting to go the way of eUnited as they start farming up again, but that's the only real significant difference coming between it. Kills still in their favor. The team fight still looks good for them. That's maybe frightening for Radiance overall. Going into the late game, I haven't seen enough of them in these team fights, successfully coming out and one that you can qualify as a victory to be able to say that they're set for Fire Giants and Pyromancers. I think they still have to figure out how all these picks work together, and more importantly, Aurora that just needs to farm up. I think at this point, he's only a level down compared to Snoopy, but he's 0-4-1. He's getting picked off a ton. I think they could actually relax for a little bit on this point for Radiance before maybe trying to get aggressive.
Well, that's what Radiance do. It's in situations like this, and even ideally with a lead, the risk of rehashing the same topic from game one. They'll slow these games down and then suddenly find a way to pull these big advantages. Sometimes it's a Fury steal. Sometimes it's a big fight that you didn't expect. So,
yep.
Aurora definitely still at a point, despite being 0-4-1, where the core of what Cabrakan wants to do is lock you in, is still on the table kind of regardless of how far behind he is. So maybe not too far off, Gore, from sort of the Ymir conversation we've had, where he's going to lock you in, he's going to wall you away. And if he's able to do that, he's done his job. But unfortunately now, for maybe the 5th time, Aurora's going to get pulled back in. Adapting has to take to the sky. Aurora knocked back by Variety, so that's the 5th death for the Cabrakan, but the stun there from Adapting immediately knocked up. I'm surprised he went back down onto that one with really only Benji off to the side. BMT was close, but not close enough. A 2-kill swing for eUnited.
I think the polite word I can use is brave play from Adapting. I think there's several ways that dunk can go. Maybe looks like it's going to be able to find 3 people, but I mean, even then, cool, you stunned 3 people on eUnited for 4 of them to still remain around you. Like, you buy yourself a little bit of time. I just don't know if the damage follow-up was ever going to be there for them. Yeah, this should be an easy Fire Giant. They don't have anyone to contest, save for Benji. I mean, if BMT and Cyclone Spin come over, eUnited can just take the fight.
Vanish onto Snoopy, I think. Smart to start it for eUnited. Gauge the response from Radiance. And then respond in kind, depending on how much of Radiance shows up. Though interesting, I mean, likely would have been easier to, well, not likely, it is easier to lock down that Pyromancer, but now eUnited having to retreat is going to give that small gold swing over to the Radiant side, barring a steal away, which eUnited won't find. So Radiance playing that situation well, Gore, despite being a man down.
The only term I can use to describe eUnited there was a little greedy, and it sounds way more negative than it is. I think you had that opportunity to try and burn down the Fire Giant or force a fight around it. I just think, and even I got caught up in this, I didn't look down to see, oh yeah, Hastened Ring is there for Cyclone Spin, therefore damage is good. You have to worry about that when he makes that rotation. If he was a smidge slower, then you have no issues taking that fight. But Radiance, they're not going to play like that. They're definitely going to keep their heads about them, and so that makes the big difference. Otherwise, you could have easily gotten the Pyromancer in the same amount of time. I think eUnited maybe lose out a little bit right there. But again, it just keeps the game state safe. Maybe pulls a little bit of gold now in favor of Radiance, but at the end of the day, Radiance are still finding these small things that are keeping them, I wouldn't say alive in this, rather than getting knocked down, because eUnited are still playing most of these team fights a little better. It's just the objectives right after that are the problem. But unfortunately for eUnited, objectives are how you win the game. It's not always on the Pyromancer, your Furies, and your Fire Giants. It's all around the towers. They all kind of add up together.
Well, Gora, effectively everyone in this game has some sort of CC in their kit, you know, depending on what you consider, you know, ROMs to be. So as such, there are 9 out of 10 slots filled with 9 out of 10 potential slots filled with beads. Only Snoopy does not have the beads on his side. All 9 of them are available, so this is a big fight to see what can get burnt off. Benji has to use his here. Up to the skies he goes. Scream will get the beads out of Aurora. Benji will leap on down, and Adapting won't connect for much onto his ultimate. Variety, though, unable to complete the frames on his. Frenzy popped, though, by Snoopy. And Aurora left running, so eUnited not shying away from the Primal Fury.
And what I like is that right now Radiance are still in a great position to get aggressive. That Primal Fury is almost delivered to them at half health. I think they can start it up, especially because eUnited don't have much chance here. But I'm watching Adapting as well as Heroine. If they had Variety with them, then they could have potentially tried to start up a Fire Giant and just left the Fury for something else. But right now, Radiance not only staying alive in this, that's a huge win for them, killing off Variety as quickly as they did.
And they really swing back in control, at least gold-wise, but 1,000 gold sort of spread across everyone at this point. Maybe nothing to write all that much home about. Benji level 19 to Variety 17. So while we've, you know, given some knocks to Sun Wukong and some of the utility he's able to provide, Benji, after an 0-2 start, I think has done a good job, all things considered. You're 0-2-0 to start off this game. Now, in the last couple of kills that Radiance has pulled back, Benji has been involved.
And able to stay alive. Again, it's the one thing Wukong does best. And again, his early game maybe didn't start off the way he wanted to, but now he's able to showcase that. But, you know, you had highlighted it, forced into the beads, forced to use them there. Maybe not the biggest impact he won out of them, so there's still some room potentially to grow here for Benji. Although, keep your eyes on him. I think he's going to be very potent coming into the late game. And I think also in that beads conversation, you know, you have to look at CCR. Spirit Robe picked up there for Variety. Essentially trying to stop exactly what just happened to him from happening. Unfortunately, it didn't work there. So more than likely going for, I think, a Mantle of Discord, try and fill things out. I think fully slotted, Variety is still going to be able to make plays like we've kind of gotten used to these last 2 games so far in the 22 minutes here. But it is that question with all these beads online, and I guess even more so when they're offline, how they get burned is more important. If eUnited can fish a couple of them up, Variety has great potential to do that. Snoopy does as well. Scream can. And once they get rid of them, it gets so much easier to lock down Radiance.
Adapting, getting defensive here. Scream locked in. Uses his ultimate. 2 chains connect, but Cyclone Spin will answer with his ultimate. Down goes Adapting into the backline, but he's locked in this time around by Heroine. Scream, rampaging through this game, is going to get rid of Adapting. Variety has to use his ultimate as a disengage. Look at that from Aurora. He's trembled him down. Gaijay's on a killing spree, though. Now it's on Radiance to finish him off. It's a double for BMT. Cyclone's got 1. Variety last left alive, and it's the Dia side on a double kill from Cyclone 23 minutes in.
And I don't know, Cyclone Spin, Benji, like that's a lot of health for Benji, a lot of damage for Cyclone, but a 2v Fire Giant, still difficult to pull off. But a Dia side, I mean, there's plenty of room to work with, still 5 towers standing, which makes it awkward to try and get aggressive into the base. You can already see even the Fire Giant a little awkward as Benji gets low. Cyclone gonna not actually get hurt too much by this one, thanks to the lifesteal that he's got built into his account. and he is waiting 2 seconds. We'll get a roar. I don't know if they want to hold it for 20 more to try and get BMT, so that's going to get 4 members with a Fire Giant.
What a play there from Radiance. That was, maybe the most value we've seen out of this Cabrakan since the start of this game. The 3-man trembles, big-time stuns there from the rest of Radiance as well. That's kind of the moment you're looking for, right? If you're Radiance, that we haven't seen yet up to this point. So, in one big swing, Aurora has maybe carried his worth up to this point on this Cabrakan, the largest gold lead by far we now see in this game. Around the 5,000 mark, Radiance pull themselves ahead. Everyone but BMT has got the FG buff. Only the only the 1 tier 1 tower is missing from eUnited, and it's always a fun conversation point, Gore. Lots of potential gold still on the map for Radiance to take, though everyone's starting to get to that full build point. That'll get you the extra pots, the elixirs, all that sort of fun stuff.
And you can see, I actually really like this. The very end there, I was curious what Cyclone Spin was building into, but he's gotten to the height of the Nemean Lion, a couple of block stacks to help him stay alive even longer in the backline of a lot of these fights. Already dealing absurd amounts of damage, and when you look at the net worth and the farm specifically, near the bottom's GaiJ. They've both affected 10 kills, but for Cyclone Spin, that's 100% kill participation. And GaiJ, his ROM looks good. 3-1-7's not bad by any means, but I haven't really felt his impact in the last couple of engagements. He was definitely bigger early on, especially around the 12 to 15 minute mark, that mid-game area. So I wouldn't mind seeing him kind of step forward, be the answer, the call that eUnited need. Because as of right now, it feels like Scream Variety go in, everybody else dies, and then we see what happens.
Right now is where that is a perfect boon to our point, where we say Radiance hang in there, and then eventually they blow you out of the water, and they finally do here in this one. And they'll take the Primal Fury on the back end of it. So the threat that we keep talking about was missing in Game 1. We finally get to see it from Radiance here in Game number 2. So they've pulled themselves a great advantage 26 minutes in to this one. All of the actives still on the table. All 9 out of 10 beads ready to go. So you look towards this next fight as being somewhat even strength, despite, of course, that Fire Giant buff. You then wonder how confident eUnited maybe should be, Gore, in defending some of these Phoenixes.
I mean, they look pretty good on them. With their ults available, I think we can see a good fight coming up around a Phoenix. But it is also dependent on how aggressive Radiance want to go ahead and jump in there. That's the thing. I think Aurora's been doing great. That last team fight, I was doubting them early game, but that last one showcases what Radiance's draft can accomplish. But I think it's very easy to maybe catch Aurora out, very much like right now. Nobody following up on Variety, so the back just isn't going to go off to spend some of that last little bit of gold. But, I mean, 1, 6, and 5, you can definitely target where they've been putting pressure. 2, 5, and 3, Adapting and Aurora are the ones that are kind of getting punished more than anybody else on the team for Radiance. Unfortunately, that doesn't really mean anything for eUnited anymore. I think early on that slows down aggression. Right now, though, I'm looking at Cyclone Spin. If he doesn't die in a fight, I don't think it matters what you do. If Big Man Ting stays alive in a fight, I don't think it matters who else you kill. Those two on their own can take towers, they can win fights, they can heal up the team or themselves, depending on where they want to go. I think they're going to be the deadly ones, and honestly, as much as getting rid of the front line is useful, the stuns from Aurora, making sure they're offline are going to be nice. I think getting rid of the damage from Cyclone Spin or Big Man will be more important for your victory if you're United.
Ooh, there's the big old up swoop on the XP and gold, but the Fire Giant buff will disappear here. So now kind of that 1 minute bit of downtime, Gore, before this next Fire Giant spawns out. It'll be enhanced shortly after it spawns. I'm not sure how much that maybe plays into the decision-making process here. But I think if you kind of got to rewind to now if you're eUnited and wonder what went wrong at that previous Fire Giant engagement, because you were dictating the pace, you were controlling this game up to this point, you were punishing Aurora. And maybe you just get too grouped up against a team that wants you to group up, and that's what you need to change before this next FG.
I think there was a simultaneous Scream got very, very low, and even though he was able to make some plays while he was low health, Aurora catches him out, and I think that's the lockdown. Like you said, maybe a little too grouped up overall, and Tremor's locking you down for Cyclone Spin. it's never going to be an equation
not
that
good.
wins for eUnited there. So I think that's really where the strength came from. Maybe if they can play, I don't even want to say less grouped up, but either kill a roar faster, which, again, I think I'd rather you slow that down and put some focus onto some of the backliners if possible, then maybe you just burn him up. I mean, try to kill a roar and or focus away from him. Try to win the fight on this side. He's going to have control of the Fire Giant pit, though, especially right now with a 10k gold lead. So you're going to have to rethink your engage strategy if you're eUnited.
I didn't even know the FG was going, and it's already down. Radiance takes down the Fire Giant. Variety has found Big Man Tings on the back. Adapting will drop down here. So does Scream, though. A bit of a split engagement. Scream's going to be left alone. Will get a chain over on the Big Man Tings. Looking to dash away. Gets his bubble pop. Dashes over to the Harpies. Good escape so far from Scream, and plenty fast enough maybe to get out alive. Looking for the cooldowns from Adapting. He's gotten his way in there. CC Immunity waiting for that wall. Oh, and he dashes to the Harpy as well. Radiance will get the Pyromancer. At this point, Scream may be just wasting some time as the rest of eUnited lock back into their base. There's the stun. There's the kill. Finally, Scream goes down. And all things considered, Gore, Scream's the only one who dies. It's got to be a defensive win for eUnited.
Unfortunately, they used a lot of ults there, Dave. They do not have a ton. And honestly, I just want to talk about how good Adapting was. And it's only one small moment, but he teleports to his hammer, and we saw the beads for Scream blare up. And Adapting didn't throw down the wall. And so those beads just ended up wasted, much like Snoopy's ult might end up wasted here.
Snoopy underground gets a little bit of damage onto Aurora. Hurrywind dunked on here, but the wall is separating Adapting from the kill. He gets it nonetheless over onto Snoopy. Will stun down one in the back. Snoopy's the only one who dies here in this fight. Some good damage turned around by eUnited. Left side Phoenix goes down. I think this is a good calculated move by Radiance. Change our focus towards the mid.
You know, there are a lot of times where I think you can say that one individual god at high level might not make the difference, but really right now, that Freya from the backline is just chunking people so much that it's so dangerous to be inside the fight. And then you get Cupid, specifically that fail knot towards the very end, having a little bit of crit chance there has helped burn people down whenever Fields of Love comes out.
Scream into the backline is going to pop his ultimate this time around, looking to pull in Cyclone Spin, but Valkyrie's discretion is going to be used to counter it out. Scream retreating back to the fountain. Mid lane Phoenix goes down. Radiance will turn their attention once again. Maybe now to the right-hand side. eUnited have mitigated their losses, though Radiance haven't pushed for much more, to be fair.
Oni Fury's up, and that should be a very easy grab for Radiance right now. Oni Fire minions running down mid and left sounds like a bad time for eUnited.
It sure does.
But they're getting aggressive right now, Dave. I mean, they're chasing Radiance, which is not what I expected, not even defending left lane. You can see Gaijay's falling back. The rest of the team finally seems to get the call as well to retreat. Maybe not going to make the connection they needed to. And look at right. Their right-hand Phoenix is halfway down. I mean, that just makes it even easier. Radiant still have a minute to play with. They could walk in and knock that Phoenix down in no time.
Yeah, it's been this kind of consistency of finding the backline, I think, that's been working for Radiance, whereas you look at eUnited and, you know, Scream has to dash in, then ult, Snoopy and Variety, well, maybe more so Snoopy is just looking for maybe Cyclone or Big Man Tings to be out of position for the puck. Variety, I guess, has the ability to rotate in from behind. But, you know, Fields of Love, a big Thor dunk, you know, that's there for Radiance to kind of engage now onto these fights. So maybe it's on Radiance to be caught out in a bit of a missed position to give eUnited an advantage, but this is going to be a tough one, Gore. Half HP on this right side Phoenix. You kind of got to make a stand maybe if you're eUnited, but maybe Titan is the final line of defense.
Well, we really don't see a lot of people come back from 3 Phoenixes down, and right now Adapting's in the air. This is just to ward them off. That's going to be the third bird. And this is the make or break for eUnited right now. I don't even know if they can find anything off of that, though.
G gets a little bit of damage done to him. Fields of Love drapes over. Anvil of Dawn still down. So eUnited winning in that ultimate conversation. But effectively nothing else. In any other conversation, eUnited are winning. And at the moment, it's a 17,000 gold lead, though a lot of that by the wayside. Literally, the only thing that maybe still matters in that conversation is XP. Is Snoopy is still level 18 out of 20, so as rough of a start as Aurora's had, he's really come back into it here. Good wall by Adapting, and then a banish onto Variety, and then a wall from Aurora. A lot spent there cooldown-wise to try to get Variety out of the fight, and they've at least succeeded in doing so here. Radiance may be looking to siege this Titan.
Right now, it's that awkward moment where Radiance aren't so sure of their ability to kill off
There's the
eUnited
Fire Giant.
and the Titan, so they can't go in. Yeah, Fire Giant coming up in about 10 seconds. They've got some patience, but I mean, you have to defend left lane if you're eUnited here. They've got 2 people right now there, and with 3 Phoenixes down, you almost can't afford to send anybody over to the Fire Giant, so I'm not surprised to see Radiance take this one for free. But Dave, I'm trying to rack my brain and how eUnited stay alive in this. Outside of just one insanely stellar defense, which we have seen today, so honestly, is not exactly something I can write off. It's just not looking too easy for them is the best way to word it. I mean, almost 20,000 gold at this point, a weakened Phoenix in left, about to be a weakened, if not re-dead Phoenix in mid. It's just too many pressure points that are bleeding for eUnited right now.
Mantings on this Cupid has put together a great performance for himself. Same with Scream out of the jungle for eUnited. From range, Hurrywind's ultimate does not connect. That bounce off Adapting's wall, it might have, but Hurrywind gets nothing for his ultimate there. And now the middle lane Phoenix back up as the left lane Phoenix will fall as well. Radiance rotate over to that one. Gore, look at these minions. 3 full waves of fire minions pushing in. eUnited almost have to take this fight maybe away from their Titan. Radiance could just turn the damage there and end the game.
I'm actually surprised that they're not doing that.
Wow.
Maybe they're trying to bait eUnited out of here. Nope. Cyclone and Big Man are back in base. This actually is a good opportunity for eUnited. They don't have a lot of their big damage dealers. But man, if they could have caught just a single person out, that could have been their way right back in. At least a 4v5 slows Radiance. Again, it does the Radiance play, right? It says, we're not, like, you're ahead. We're going to play catch-up. Slow this game down to the point where maybe we can get even again. Although it's a little far-fetched. 35 minutes in, you have to push. I'm having flashbacks to yesterday's SCC to 78 minutes to try and do something like that. You have to defend your Phoenix and your base.
You're telling me we're not even halfway through this game yet?
There's a dude. When you have good defense, there's a decent chance you can hold on forever. But
they have a
that's where things fall
78-minute
apart.
defense.
I don't think they have a 78-minute defense. I give them at best 50, 55. Maybe you can push to 60 here if you're United, but I don't know. I just don't feel it. I feel like Aurora, especially if he can just find one person,
Just need a group.
it falls apart. But we haven't really seen United find anything aggressive, and Snoopy's just been getting melted.
There you go. Let's lock Snoopy in here and get the ball rolling. Radiance find the first pick here, but Cyclone Spin is taken solo as well. Adapting will dunk in. Radiance looking to end the game here, but eUnited clawing themselves back into the fight to go down. Now Radiance have the numbers to walk on in should they choose.
That's the should they choose part is the part of the sentence that, in my mind, shouldn't exist right now. You have the numbers advantage. Yeah, your ults are low. Maybe Adapting's a little too low. So they're playing patient, and I like to see it. It's the safe call. But get in there and in this game. Right now you're playing with your food.
Here we go. That's it for this games. Here we go. But Big Man Tings has deleted Scream. Hurrywin low as well. Titan will finally go down. It seemed like it was just a matter of time for Radiance to finally group up and push themselves in. Radiance tie up this set. eUnited are headed to another Game 3 Gormizer against a top 4 team. Brutal for these guys. Can't get that clean to a win. Radiance fought back in traditional Radiance fashion. I think that was about as Radiance as a win gets. You blow them out of the water in one big fight, and they look good now for maybe a Game 3 win.
I've got, I think, good news, bad news. The good news is, even though that was a loss, it still looked pretty good for a long portion of the game for eUnited, so there's a lot of benefits there. But the bad news is that historically, 2-1s never go the way of eUnited, and so Radiance should be happy going into this game because just history favors them. We'll have to see if eUnited can maybe break that curse. But, you know, it's so ridiculous to me. At least it feels like there's not too much for eUnited. There was definitely a lot of timid play from Radiance at the end, which I think is warranted from what eUnited have done. But if they can keep Radiance tripped up enough, then I expect to see Game 3 be even more interesting.
Right, I mean, it was just sort of a, all right, Radiance, let's take a deep breath, find that one pick. Poor Snoopy just got absolutely piled on there at the end, and Radiance are able to walk it in with ease and grab themselves the win. We are all tied up here. Game 3 just over the horizon, but first, go back to the desk to break down game number 2.
Thanks, Dolson and Gormizer, and that is the dichotomy of eUnited, right? That sometimes they look like Game 1, where we're thinking, hey, this team's about to turn it all around, and then sometimes it like here in Game 2, where really, for the most part, this game was entirely in Radiance's control. But I think this is why we have our hopes up for this squad, Mifflin, because they give us games like that first one, but things obviously going off the rails here in this game, even with adapting and Aurora kind of having some struggles a little bit in that early game. The rest of Radiance really pulled it together and kind of felt like they were just giving United their due respect and making sure they closed that one out clean.
Look, I'm going to stretch exactly what you said into a compliment for eUnited. It is not often you lose a game 20,000 gold down. That's 20,000 gold, meaning that Radiance were struggling to close it out. Sure, they were growing the lead because eUnited couldn't leave their base. Gold Furies, Pyromancers, Fire Giants, all going the way of Radiance. But still, eUnited on the back burner with the last bit of gas in the tank was able to reflect push after push after push. Even when they're losing, this squad looks good off the back of phenomenal play from each one of their individual players, and it did really come down to exactly what Gore said. One pick where Snoopy gets piled on was enough to break the bank, but even then, it shouldn't have taken that much. It shouldn't have been that much of a stretch, so much effort coming through from Radiance with a lead that they'd have established for themselves. If you're an eUnited fan, don't let that one sit heavy in your heart. I think Game 3 has the potential to be incredibly exciting.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you're an eUnited fan, you can make the case that if their objective control were better, they might have won that game, right? Because they were way ahead, at least in terms of the kill count. The team fights are certainly going their way. It's just that you saw that steal towards the beginning, and they struggled with some Furies as well. Radiance did a good job early in the game of when there was pressure over in that solo lane, when they were looking for Benji when his ultimate was down, they would come over to Gold Furies and make sure they grabbed them. What we're really seeing, I think, from eUnited is that they're able to kind of channel all their energy into an area and make sure they can bring that level up to being where it is a top 4, top 5 level, but then something else suffers. And in this game, I think they put that energy to the team fights, and that was all there, but they were missing some of that objective control until Radiance were able to get to the point where they were in control, and then they were the ones deciding how the game went.
Agree completely, but you know what? We gotta give credit to the winners. Radiance played well. We can't just gloss over it. Big man Tings made big man plays. This dude on Cupid looks phenomenal. Maybe Cupid's the clincher between these two squads. We'll call it Cupid Diff this time around because his damage output, his team fight potential, his ability to get in onto these high priority targets even when it's still a 5-on-5, it is not easy as a hunter. And a mid laner playing a hunter at that, auto attack are not their thing. I don't know if you've ever caught an aggro stream, but he was still able to find his way into the back line and absolutely dominate. This guy is looking incredibly good in Phase 2.
He certainly is, man. I've been on this big man Tinks train for a while now, and I don't think it's going to stop anytime soon. Let's move into the all-important picks and bans for game number 3, because I, like the fool that I am, said back at the beginning of the picks and bans for 2 that it wasn't all that important, that because of the way game 1 went, that there wasn't going to be that much to watch there, and obviously I was wrong. Radiance made the adaptations, pulled some of those important picks away from them, like the Cupid, like the Freya, and had those responses that they needed to in the picks and bans. So, now it's eUnited's turn to show us in a different spot. They're in first pick for the first time. Can they make the adjustments to set themselves up for success?
I think largely the ban phase should remain unchanged. We've seen now that it really isn't coming down to these first 2 picks. It seems like more so than any other set, Radiance and eUnited are really playing around that second phase of picks, the second and third pick for first pick, or the last pick for second pick, and that's where they're really finding these values. I think that first pick likely is getting determined around this Persephone ban. Now that it's removed, you're not really getting too much off of that one individual god, and now it leaves Radiance available to potentially do a target ban or even just go back to the meta. It's very interesting to see how the first 3 pan out for both squads.
Interestingly, Persephone made it through in both games, saw Herwin and Big Man Tings playing it, but not going to be the case this time. Radiance, once they're in that second pick, ban it away, along with the Freya, and some respect being put on this tier for variety. Ooh. That being taken away as well, but that leaves a lot of stuff up. The Yamoja is now available, the Ola run is available as well. Nemesis was banned out here this time, but still, lots of priority picks. If I'm United, you might even be a little bit worried, because I think Radiance are going to get a great top 2 in response.
Yeah, and now we also have Neath available for the first time in this phase. BMP's
Right.
been having a fantastic time running that pick. It's not one that you usually talk about when we're talking about these meta picks, but he makes it look incredibly strong on a mid, and it opens them up to run that magical ADC. Radiance might be looking to take Ola run here and Neath just to make sure that it doesn't get picked away by eUnited.
Certainly it could be strong, but the Hercules coming through. So, I mean, this makes a ton of sense to me. I would be surprised if Olarun is not taken alongside this here. I think that was the least flexible of those two. But, I mean, Olarun's been getting so permabanned. I wonder if it is going to be ready to be snatched up right away, or if you'd be worried that there might be some counters on the other side. But we'll have no delay no longer. Hercules at Olarun about as good as it can get for top two picks. But now we're going to be seeing Snoopy on the Emoja. Just seeing those first three, who do you think came out ahead here?
Radiance has potentially the best support possible going in with an Olarun, if that is a Hunter Olarun, just because of how it works. You go into lane at level 1, Hercules pulls the wave, you take your second ability on Olarun, that's instant clear. I think that might be the strategy, but it's so hard to talk about eUnited's draft not being better just because of Yemoja. What Yemoja brings, this high pressure support, potentially the highest pressure support in the game, the ability to completely separate a team fight with your ultimate, out of combat healing off of your auto attacks, give your teammates that don't have mobility. Yemoja is this one-stop shop for literally everything you want out of your support role, and I think it's absolutely crazy that it makes it through the ban phase here. But again, and now I look back over at Radiance, and it's like, whoa, that's Olarun Hercules. We got to address that as well. Both teams get away with murder.
Well, Robin's being picked up. We know that that's going into the support role if Neil has taught us anything. But, I mean, I want to talk about this Sobek being picked up over here. Just a slight bit about the Robin. This Sobek has gone support for Snoopy now 2 games in a row. Variety obviously has a Sobek. He has played that plenty of times throughout his long career. But do you think there's any chance this Sobek might end up in Snoopy's hands again? Or is this definitely going solo?
Look, we've been talking about history a lot on the desk, but between Gore and you, we've been bringing it up a lot. So I think I have to trust in it that it's likely going to go back to Snoopy, especially considering how well Variety's been able to control the pace of these fights on these fighty warrior picks. Now that Tier has been banned out, we might actually see it flex that way. Maybe eUnited are trying to condition Radiance into thinking that it is only going to that support role. But it's hard to say. But looking at the draft as it is right now, I think it really does have to, just because Yemoja support is the way it goes, but Yemoja mid could happen as well. You never know with these SPL teams. They're willing to bring things out of their hat. Cupid mid, Yemoja ADC? It's hard to say.
I don't know about that last one, but I'm with you in terms of it feels like things could go just about anywhere at this point. Radiance electing to ban away 2 Assassins, the Dodgy and the Najah, and we already saw Scream play that Najah back in their win in Game 1, so I like this ban, and they're picking up this Xing Chen again. Now, if I'm not mistaken, the Xing Chen was played by Benji back in Game 1 as well, so I think we're likely going to see a reprisal there with this Robin going to adapting, so we're just waiting on what it is Cyclone Spin wants to play, or potentially Big Man Tinks, depending on where this Olarun's going to go. Meanwhile, eUnited going over to this Poseidon. Now, we have not seen a lot of Poseidon here lately. How strong do you think he is right now, Ben?
Well, it depends, and I'm going to be completely frank with it. There are 2 versions of Poseidon. The right version and the wrong version. The right one being standard mage build Poseidon, maybe like 1 ring or Toxic Blade if you want additional movement speed. And then there's this auto attack centric Poseidon that we've been seeing hit this resurgence in the XPL recently with like 0 win rate. Oh, what are we waiting on? Where are we at?
Where's this Poseidon going? Is Poseidon? It has to be Poseidon Jungle now. I'm thinking, right, Miff? Because the ROM and the Cupid are locked in. It's got to be Poseidon Jungle.
You might be right. That's crazy. I mean, look, Scream likes weird stuff. It's been his MO since day 1. All right, if you're going Poseidon Jungle, go for the rings. All right, go for the auto attack build. You want that additional movement so you can rotate throughout the map. I take back everything that I said earlier. This ROM pickup is crazy. Cupid very likely going in mid, which means you are absolutely right to point out Variety is likely to be taking this Sobek into the Soul lane. eUnited are pulling all the stops for this game. They're looking to get on the board with their first win.
That's what it feels like to me. eUnited want to win this, and they're shaking up the draft here a little bit. Radiance, on the other hand, though, are playing fairly standard, I would say, for their picks. You got to think this On Her goes to Tings. He certainly has a history of playing these Hunter mids throughout his career. I mean, Aurora on the Hercules. Can you ask for a more iconic duo in SMITE than, or God and player pairing than Hercules and Aurora? I mean, this is shaping up to be about the best game 3 we could have asked for here.
I'm super excited for it. eUnited has a lot riding on this Poseidon if it is going to the jungle. You rotate into a lane and drop your Kraken. If you drop your Kraken and it doesn't result in a kill, you're worthless as a jungler. You're not moving in, you're not setting up your team, you're not dealing enough damage to make up for what Robin is likely going to be doing. But the high-end potential and the gank potential is absolutely there. If we get a gank kill off that first Poseidon rotation, Scream's about to pop off.
I'm excited for this one. Dolson and Gore got to make sense of it as we get it down for game number 3.
Wait, what? I gotta do that? No chance. No chance. It's Poseidon in the jungle, Gore. So we know that. It's already win on the Cupid in the mid lane. Guy J, of course, on the Rom over in that Hunter role. Here's a little bit of a history lesson, though. Big Man Tings, the 1% pick rate on that on her was week 1 against eUnited. For Radiance, and they ended up 2-0ing eUnited there in week number 1. So 1 pick, 1 win, and it was BMT against eUnited. So a little bit of history here. Interesting collapse from both teams, Gore. I'll hesitate just a moment, see what comes of it. If anything, adapting Benji will go back. So no kills, no clash just yet.
I think there's a lot of weight. More or less on this Poseidon to showcase what it can do, but that's going to be a good pluck. It doesn't matter if you get the kill there. Look at those beats, and look at that timer. 160 that's going to be offline. And so now you've got BMT in a position where this on her is not going to be as safe, and that is going to help out Scream immensely. A whirlpool now underneath this on her, whether it's level 1, 2, 3, 4, ideally 5 for the Kraken. Either way, you're going to be able to set up some good kills in that mid lane, but you only have a little bit of a window to work with.
Well, Gore, I mean, Finch charged us with the task, so it's our jobs now to look at this Poseidon in the jungle and really make some sense of what we're seeing. Let's think of what we've seen from Scream so far this set, right? I mean, the Daji in Game 2, the Naja in Game 1, you know, some lockdown, the single target lockdown, some decent team fighting with the Palaus, of course. That's something totally different in this Poseidon. Still have some lockdown, but lots of damage potential there mage-wise, so interesting for Scream.
I think it kind of is, it's a weird fusion. It's maybe not single target lockdown. It's going to have that whirlpool that can set up a lot and potentially give them some retaliation. If that had picked up there for Aurora, that could have been a different story, and you'd be talking right now. But since they slow it down for Radiance, we'll keep looking at this Poseidon. Things he can't do, what Robin just did. I think an early game gank from Scream, maybe not as likely overall and something that they're going to have to wait for, but he might be able to help out here.
Aurora Hercules, nearly first blood. Oh, the minion chops him down. Snoopy, goodbye. But he buys some time for Scream to rotate over. Cyclone Spin is going to put down some good damage on the Guy J, who rolls away. Scream will pick up the return kill. What a play there from Radiance to pick up first blood. Cyclone Spin nearly turns around a second. But in the nick of time, Scream is there to pick up 1.
I mean, you have to look at it and say that it's more worthwhile for eUnited in a very small way. They kill the Hunter, but they lose first blood bounty. It still comes out in favor of Radiance. You can't walk around that one. Maybe getting a kill online for Scream is going to be more helpful for them than anything. Again, it's just where these kills go and maybe where that experience is shared that matters most. I think Cyclone Spin, Olarun, yeah, you're waiting for level 5, and you know he's going to have a good teamfight impact. You know the same thing for the Emoja. We know Guy J is going to be very good. The question really is coming down to the Scream special, which is this Poseidon jungle. It's something he's run in the past, something he has found success with in the past, and that we have seen work and not work all in the same breath. But if he can find some good ganks, I mean, Whirlpool is a very good ability at setup, and they might be able to lock down at least some damage. I just don't know how many kills are going to come around if, much like Mifflin said, the Kraken's not up.
Gore, I mean, there is fighting all over the place right now. I mean, solo lane's getting some eyes on it here. Radiance continue to push in pressure against eUnited. That should show you really the weight that this Hercules carries with it, especially for Aurora, pushing back a Yamoja and a Ram this early on in the game, so that's a big win there for Radiance. But then you kind of look at the micro of what just happened, and it was adapting, able to clear fast enough to go over and invade that blue buff side, so maybe that's something to be concerned about in this matchup.
Right now, the aggression, and I think what they have on the terms of Radiance is going to be this early game power, specifically adapting Raven, very good, levels 2 through 10, and can control this jungle pretty easily against a Poseidon. I mean, he shouldn't have any issues there. It's the follow-up that's going to, determine everything.
Oh, just a little bit more from Variety, but Benji, he's rooted him down under the tower and gets the kill. The 2v1 turnaround for Benji. Scream left farming. The Kraken did a lot, but not enough.
And that's, I think, the other issue. Ult abilities all down. What's Poseidon gonna do right now? He doesn't necessarily have the follow-up damage afterward that another assassin could, so he can't dive that tower. And well, as we saw, diving the tower, maybe not the best thing that ended up working. Variety thrown into it, and we'll be feeling that one. But this is what I kind of expect from Radiance early on. Maybe not 2v1 return kills. That's just insane and good play from Benji. But control early game, I think, is easily theirs here. Transitioning into the late game, though, I mean, Heroin did phenomenal in game 1 on this Cupid. Guy historically looks phenomenal on this ROM. So there are 2 players you can't count out. Snoopy, I think, gets better with time on this Emoja. Same thing for Scream and Variety. So I think there's a lot of merit to eUnited's late game team fight. It's just getting there comfortably and not too far behind that's going to be hard. And that's probably the driving factor for this next 5-10 minutes for them, is just don't lose too hard and you can still win the game.
Another purple buff push, another successful one for Radiance there. Variety goes underground, a little extra damage using the Magi. First overall here for him, adapting takes almost none of that damage here. Variety and Scream just getting bullied out here. Kraken, what a timing there from eUnited. Nearly get rid of adapting. But again, a red health bar player for Radiance is going to walk away from the solo lane.
Yeah, nearly kill is just not as good as kill, Dave, and when it comes down to it, it's not coming up the way eUnited wanted. This Kraken's come out twice over here, and both times it's resulted in Variety's death. So, you have to look at the way these are going and wonder if this Poseidon pick, I mean, if it doesn't start finding this weight later, and I think the Kraken's going to hit harder later, he'll have more mana later, I think as time goes on, Scream is going to be more beneficial for eUnited. But until we see it turn around, until that fight occurs, you have to sit here questioning the pick and wondering if so much riding on it to be able to find a 2-1 win for eUnited. Their first win in the SPL Phase 2. Maybe putting it all on the Poseidon was a mistake.
Yeah, let me change my stat here now. 5 of 8 sets played for eUnited. 5 out of 8 sets eUnited have played will have gone to a game 3. Still waiting to find out if one of those will end up resulting in a win here for these guys. The solo lane pressure has been prevalent for eUnited, hasn't turned into much just yet. eUnited, though, still a kill on the board. You looked at that early long lane presence there from Scream to help turn around that kill. I mean, now you're starting to look towards this Doom Orb if you're Scream Gore. The clock is still there for Scream to maintain some relevance in this game, I think, to your point. Still a kill on the board, hasn't resulted in anything except for Variety just going a couple of levels down. So now if you're Radiance, if you're Benji, maybe we flip this coin, not talk about how what eUnited has done hasn't resulted in a lead for them, but let's look at Benji on the Xing Qin and what he needs to do to make this lead worthwhile. Maybe more of this, setting up some kills for himself and adapting.
Yeah, I don't know if you can ask for much more out of Benji. I mean, hey, be prepared for Krakens to come in and potentially turn things around in United's favor and then keep winning fights afterward. But if Benji's not there, it doesn't seem that that's going to be the case. It's a good kill in mid. It's going the way of Heroin, but this is where Benji's strengths have been.
Variety rooted down, adapting up, down, grabs the kill. 0-3-0 for Variety out of the solo lane. A small win a few moments ago. eUnited snagged the kill onto Aurora. Good riptide back, Cyclone spin. Will drape over the Sanctified Field. Saves his life for now. Is he going to turn this one around? Guy J goes up to the sky. Can you dodge out enough? That's the question now for Cyclone Spin. Down he goes. That's the knock-up. Big 2v1 here, but Cyclone Spin takes so much damage. Oh, Guy J has to roll away. Snoopy says, let me just finish off the kill. Now a roar on the chase. Blink forward, driving strike. Down goes Guy J, and Snoopy will walk himself away as well. Both hunters down.
good on Aurora to just blink in and get the kill. You need something in a moment like that. Cyclone Spin almost turned it around in his favor, but now Aurora able to get aggressive. I don't think he can find the full kill. Boulder is up, actually. He might have the damage. He's going to go ahead and call that one off. I think Scream's presence in mid, and specifically around these Gold Furies at the very beginning, is going to be a saving grace, though. And I look at Poseidon, I think of one thing realistically, and it's the ability to confirm objectives. Now, that's something that Radiance don't have as easily. I mean, Cyclone Spin can get a lot of damage, same things for BMT, but Excavate's the only one that stands out, I guess, as their burst, their way to lock down a Gold Fury or a Fire Giant late game. So again, Scream, I think the ceiling, the potential is so high. It's just waiting for it to come online and make that play. And he's 1-0-1. I feel like I'm giving him a hard time for something that hasn't even gone sour yet.
Oh, sorry, to kind of levy off that, you're correct. He is 1-0-1, but it's been Variety that's suffered some of the consequences there. Not necessarily, again, not necessarily for anything that Scream has done wrong. The damage has literally just been a hair short from a lot of these solo kills turning around, or these solo lane kills rather turning around. So not necessarily that Scream has played poorly. The damage just a bit short on a couple of occasions there. Variety, though, 3 levels down now, adapting basically on cooldown. Radiance have that blue buff cooldown, so they're just going to return there over and over and over again, I imagine. Keep Variety as far behind as you possibly can. Now you look at this from Benji. He's going to maybe move over, proxy some waves as well, help out with this Fury fight in a little bit.
I mean, you've got 2.5, almost 3 levels up on Variety, so Benji's more than comfortable, I think, being able to get aggressive. Maybe too aggressive. I was actually hoping to see Scream rotate in. I thought we were about to see another collapse, and then Benji inevitably 2v1s everybody again, and we're questioning everything. But I think where that position is in the solo lane, it's something you can shrug off a little easier. It's definitely unfortunate for Variety. 0-3 and 0 is not a comfortable look, but if all of your kills are in the solo lane, it slows him down a little bit, but kind of keeps him on par with the Guardians, at least for now. He's still going to be able to get solo lane farm. There's a certain point where Benji won't be able to kill him without the help of adapting, and the junglers have better things to do right now than to try and help the 3 levels up Xing Chen. So I expect to see adapting maybe put some pressure on mid, maybe over here on duo. That's where I want Scream to go as well. I think hitting level 12, it's going to be a detriment to him. Aegis is going to start coming online for everybody on Radiance when they get that, or anybody who wants it. BMT just hit his and grabbed it up. But Scream over here offers a protection that, again, nothing else on eUnited does, and nothing else that I think Radiance has does. And that's the ability to lock down a Gold Fury, whether you are looking to burst it down for your team or steal it away from Radiance. And it's still a huge team fight ultimate. He just finished Doom Warp. He's got a lot more damage online now, and I want to see it.
Soupy looking to run away. Fields of Love sends adapting back. Not a lot of damage returned around onto that Robin. 4 ults down now for eUnited. Only adapting having to use his. Maybe a chance for Radiance to turn around a fight, but instead it's eUnited who goes searching. That's the knockback now from Aurora. Scream stunned down, taken low. Excavate. Boulder dropped onto Scream. Will get the kill here. Variety is going to try to make his way out of this one, but Big Man Tings finds the stun. Down goes the Sobek for the 4th time this game, and Radiance pull 4K ahead.
I mean, there's a lot going wrong for eUnited here, and almost all of it comes into the trades they're making. I mean, adapting in one ability is able to dodge a Fields of Love and a Kraken all at once without having to worry about damage. Things are only getting better right now, it feels like, for Aurora and Radiance. I mean, good aggression coming down from the Hercules. Cyclone Spin has that Sanctified Fields and is only going to get better with time. They look like they might even be going for the Gold Fury start. It might just be falling back to farm the way they're running through the jungle. But the control Radiance have does mean objectives, and it seems like Gaijay also thought objectives could be on the board. That's his ult down. eUnited are playing just, I want to say, scared compared to what they were. They want to get aggressive, but they don't have anywhere near the control. That's the better way to describe it. Nothing is coming up in their favor. They're 5,000 gold down.
Yeah, literally everyone on the net worth chart beneath their counterpart, and what's worse off is that Aurora is higher than everyone on eUnited. It is a red and blue split on that net worth chart. Every once in a while you'll see, one guy way far ahead. This is a full-blown team lead now for Radiance. 5K pretty evenly spread across everyone. More worrying, though, maybe, Gore, somehow more worrying than the 5K in the gold area is this XP, where Benji is already level 15, a 4-level lead over Variety, so the Xing Qin is going to be absolutely swinging these fights 2 levels higher than anyone on eUnited. And there's a 1-level lead at least for everyone across the board from Radiance. The onus has got to be on Radiance here, right? I mean, this is a lead where you are in such control of this game you've got to misplay to lose it almost seems like, and we're only 14 minutes in.
It's one of those leads that you should win this game, right? You're definitely in the majority of, like, if you don't win this, something goes catastrophically wrong, but it's not unthrowable just yet. You know, an unthrowable lead is something that you can get if you get this Gold Fury for free. This is a good fighting and entry point for eUnited to maybe try and fight back in.
Snoopy, you went searching for a steal, but instead Adapting will pick up his second kill of the game. The Gold Fury is slowed down and stopped, but it's just going to allow Radiance to regroup and make their way back over there towards that one. A moment there where Guy J maybe takes it away. Instead, Radiance are now going to pull about 6,000 gold in the lead. 15 minutes in. I mean, the game plan for United is, Gore, it's the worst question. I know you guys hate it. But the game plan's got to be to somehow slow this game down, right? I mean, there is chaos happening all over the place, and you're just getting walked at. Guy J now, the most recent to go down, is Adapting is on a killing spree.
It's that awkward moment where all I want to say is, yeah, at this point, the most you can do is farm. And then you see what happens to Guy J for just trying to farm. There's not much you can do even in your tower range. So instead, I'm going to say your bet at this point isn't maybe around your farm, and it's maybe not on that. It's on the fights that you can pick up afterward.
Roar is plucked back. Variety goes underground here. Scream close by with the Kraken if the damage is there, but Snoopy knocked back here. Big man Tings is going to rotate over as well. Sanctified Field over Scream. Kraken does some good damage, but Cyclone Spin isn't taken down just yet. Scream finally gets the kill. 1-for-1 trade, relatively good so far for eUnited. Hurrywind will rotate himself over. Stun on back, Adapting low. Variety dodging out some shots, but Benji has rotated through. Whirlwind of Rage and Steel chasing down Hurrywind won't be there. All things considered, Gore, 1-for-1.
Man, I was watching Adapting's health. It is dangerous to try and go into a jungle buff at that health bar range.
Wow.
But he did it anyway, still took the purple. I'm surprised to see Guy J want to get this aggressive as well, but everybody on Radiance is backed off. I mean, not the best fight for eUnited, but not the worst fight for eUnited, so I think it still ends up coming a little bit in their favor. But you still have to look at it. I mean, how many of those are you going to need to equalize the playing field? That's a lot. So I still look at them, as awkward as it is, a farm game, a slow game. I'm surprised they're getting aggressive in some of these moments, because in my mind, it's almost defensive play consistently. How much can you steal away from Radiance? What can you do if they dive a tier 2? How do you retaliate? Those are the moments where you're going to very easily see eUnited start taking some of these fights, because that's where Kraken can play out into a big role. I got to mention this yesterday, but the shape of the base, specifically around the Phoenixes, plays into huge teamfight ultimates like Kraken and like Fields of Love so well that eUnited have a kind of a distinct defender's advantage in moments like that. I think Snoopy will be big around that as well, and the Fire Giant Pit's curves also help that out overall, but eUnited, there's a lot of room around the Fire Giant Pit where they can get, you know, a little bit of trouble pushing them down. So they do still have to work in the right area. And you have to look at damage numbers. I mean, Scream, we've seen this Kraken come through and not quite kill so many people. And he goes for that Toxic Blade. I think it's a good call because of the healing that's going to be online for Radiance, either through Lifesteal or what have you. But at the same time, it feels like it's maybe slowing down a little bit of the damage he could be doing here, as opposed to maybe going for some of those more mage items that we're used to seeing, kind of like the Bancrofts I'm guessing he's going to go into here.
Gore, let me say this. I love you, and I think every point you just made 100% valid. But if we're talking about the curvature of the map maybe being what gets eUnited back into this game, they're in a difficult spot. Variety is stunned back now beneath the pillar. Big man Tings is going to find the stun there. Half HP now on this 0-4 Sobek. The gang is all here for Radiance, and Variety's going to have to burn his ultimate. We'll stay alive. So win there for eUnited, though now it just means the Tier 2 tower is being ushered at 18.5 minutes in. You got an exposed right side Phoenix in the eUnited base.
Yeah, now that I'm thinking back on it, that can't be too great
No.
of a sign for any team when I'm talking
No,
about
I
their
think you're
Phoenix
right.
defense 16
Right.
minutes into the game.
I think
but
you're
I
right.
do think
This is maybe. Sorry, Gore. We'll go back to it in a moment. I just want to see if Scream maybe has a chance here to do something. Kraken defensively is
doesn't.
adapting. Will go up and over. Yeah, he sure doesn't there. Adapting 403 now as Scream will fall
Look at Gaijin.
yet again. This is maybe what you have to do. You realize you're not going to get the Fire
love
Giant. Let's break down a tier 1 in the right, or a tier 2, excuse me, in the right, and in the mid as well.
if you want to write it down, I mean, there's 2 towers left standing for both teams at this point, but one's a tier 1 and a tier 2 for Radiance. And that, it's not much, but honestly, in a losing state like this, Scream goes down. You have, in my eyes, barely any chance, if any, to try and steal that Fire Giant away. Gaijin's your second best bet. Maybe you could do Heroine. No point in trying to commit to that fight. I think Radiance thrash you, and then we're looking at them taking a Phoenix right now instead of being in the middle lane. Pushing the towers pulls a little bit of gold back in your favor, gives you something to put in the coffers, which then gives you some items online to equalize the next fight. You lose a Primal Fury, you're probably going to lose your last 2 tier 2s, but then the curvature of the map around the Phoenixes, that's when it starts to come into play, Dave. This is how it comes back right here.
Right.
I think Fire Giant is easily going to help these tier 2 towers disappear, no problem, especially with Cyclone Spin on Oleron and BMT here on this on her. But the Phoenix defense, I think, is pretty solid for eUnited. Scream just has to get back and in position, and that could change everything. Sanctified Fields isn't up as well. This is a good chance for eUnited to maybe turn things around.
Time maybe now. 20-minute Fire Giant for Radiance. Right side Phoenix, looked at, left away from by big man Tings. A lot of it, maybe leans on, rather. Is Kraken. Sanctified Field from Cyclone Spin has tried to counter it out a good bit of the time here. Snoopy being looked at by Benji. Over the right-hand side, 4 members of Radiance still back outside of Phoenix range here. Gotta watch out for that Whirlwind of Rage and Steel. Might just be waiting for that minion wave. Maybe an opening pick here. Down goes the Whirlpool. I'm waiting for a big engagement to come through. There it is. Variety knocked on back. Has to use his ultimate. A River's Rebuke from Snoopy is going to separate Radiance from following up a lot of that damage. Kraken, backline, dodged out. Benji, he goes in. Whirlwind is going to send Scream into the awaiting arms of Benji, who is now on a killing spree himself. This is 21 minutes into the game, and the Titan is maybe being looked at. No minions there. Phoenix does fall.
Honestly, if they get 1, maybe 2 more kills there for Radiance, that's the end of the game. I honestly am having trouble figuring out eUnited fighting back into this. A lot that they just used on defense didn't connect at all. I mean, everything I highlighted as could be a good ult. Feuds of Love came out, and everyone on Radiance just kind of said, okay. Kraken came out, and they just looked at it, and they were like, that's a cool ability, but it didn't do anything. Same thing for River's Rebuke. They got to find something here, or else it's over.
Hurry Wind, quite low here. Knocked back. Excavate. Will bounce off the walls. Mid lane, Phoenix almost taken down. Yeah, 21 minutes into the game, by the way. Cyclone Spin uses his beads, avoids Variety, plucking him on back. Sanctified Field slows down Snoopy, but he gets out nonetheless. Hurry Wind, if nothing else, safe on this Cupid, able to get out alive as well. Variety rooted down by adapting. He'll dash away as well. So, left side Phoenix down, mid lane Phoenix down, and Gormizer, we are 22 minutes into this game. Radiant still have 45 seconds left on this FG. Maybe time for another push. Instead, Pyro, heal, buy, maybe look at the Fire Giant a minute or so from now.
Yeah, it all plays into their timeline. Pyromancer is going to make it easier to get back in here, spend all that gold you just got from towers, from phoenixes, from kills even, and go ahead and figure out what your final items for 2 of them, Aurora as well as Cyclone Spin. They just got a full tier 3 off of that back, so they're happy with the changes, and now they're even more powerful in this fight. But timers, I'm still looking at this 12k deficit. What can eUnited do? I'm playing for them in my mind and how to get back into this. Maybe you can contest a Fire Giant fight. If you can get aggressive, you've got good wave clears on the map, so you can go forward and try to make it a little more troublesome for these fire minions to get back towards the base. And you have good steal potential on the team. But you've got good team fight ults. It's all around how you get this engage. I think that right-hand or left-hand Phoenix is probably a good example of what order not to use them in, and really showcase how to well, just give Radiance an advantage where you should have one. So they do need to change up their play, but at this point I still believe in them. I think the premise is there, the theory is there.
Right.
And now you're just getting stronger. I mean, you get a full Typhon's Fang from Scream. He's going into a little bit more lifesteal, so it's going to be an extra power spike for him. I think it's all going to exist. It's just execution now for eUnited. And taking down a team like Radiance is not going to be easy for anybody in the league. I mean, we just saw them 2-0 Ghost. But being able to put that on your belt, just get a win finally in this phase, it could be huge.
That's right, we have reached the point in the game where Scream, now even, level 20. Hurrywin just a little bit behind. So while it is a 12k gold lead, closer than maybe where we stand. Yeah, take a look at the FG, Cyclone Spin. He did this in week 1 against eUnited. Granted, this one a little bit, I don't know, maybe it's not even further into the game. Cyclone Spin was the Chronos FG solo, and does it again here on the Ola run, also against eUnited. eUnited have learned that one the hard way. Aurora plucked back in. They don't have Cyclone Spin for a moment. Maybe the best fight for eUnited here. Aurora locked in, Tremble the back. Kraken doesn't get the kill. Stays alive. GuyJ trying to lock him down. The sniped won't find the back line. That's a triple knock-up from Variety, but the follow-up not there. Big Man Tings finds the opening kill of the fight. eUnited, they see those low health bars. And they'll slow things down. Don't want to bite off too much. Right side Phoenix still alive.
Dave, I'm done looking for the silver lining. They used 5 ults to try and get a kill there, and they didn't even get the kill on eUnited. I don't know if there's much ways to fight back into this one. All the damage they do in the world doesn't seem to matter to Radiance. This lead, almost insurmountable at the way they're controlling it. 2 Phoenixes down as of right now since left respawned. The Fire Giant buff's still strong on them. They've only killed Variety. As long as eUnited have 4 members, I don't think things can go that drastically wrong for them. But it's so difficult to argue in their favor right now when Radiance are just going to tear them down 25 minutes, 26, 27 minutes into the game.
Gore, you're the best of all of us, and I won't be convinced otherwise. There's still a world where eUnited, 3,
I don't want to count them out.
3 Phoenixes down. No, you can't. You absolutely cannot. But 3 Phoenixes down, 5 members strong with the Fire Giant buff. Gonna be hard. We saw this in Game 2. Radiance just walked on in. Can they do it here again in Game number 3? eUnited need a big defense. Benji won't find much with his ultimate. Variety alone in the back. Up, down goes Adapting. Rampaging now is the Robin. Scream making his way back out of the fountain. Rivers Rebuke corrals Radiance on in. Half HP on the Titan. GuyJ has gotten rid of 2. It's a double kill. Titan melting away. But it's not enough. Radiance in 26 minutes finally put eUnited down, and eUnited go 0 for 5 on their Game 3s. 5 out of 8 to start off the phase. Go to Game 3. eUnited still searching for a win.
That Kraken was the one that I idealized the entire game, Dave. I had it in my mind from minute 1. We finally got at least one of them. Unfortunately, it was 1 out of like 20 that finally connected the way you needed them to. It was good damage. It was a good turnaround. It just happened way too late for eUnited. I mean, there's no nice way to say this. Variety essentially just became a slightly bigger minion on the map. He was 0-6 towards the end of it. The beginning of it paid for Scream's jungle. At the end of it, it just ended up being an easy kill for Radiance. They got so far ahead that snowball's the only true term for this one.
Yeah, 4 pi r squared. That's the area of a sphere, and the curvature just miscalculated a little bit there by eUnited towards the end of it. Radiance, they take game number 3 here. Still, goose egg in the win column for eUnited. They have an aptitude for game 3s, just not finishing them out. We'll go back to the desk, though, to break down the final set of the week.
Making it to game 3 certainly worth something, but at a certain point, they got to be able to win that second game as well. And I wonder how much of this does go wrong because of the jungle, or at least Mifflin, where the jungle spent their time. I mean, we saw, what, 2 ganks over there towards Solo, looking to get that kill, and Benji just stuffs them both. The first time getting the kill in the Variety, the second time getting one on his own, and it kind of felt like things were a bit downhill from there. What did you see in this game where things got so out of control?
Just about everything, Finch. It was going Radiance's way from minute 0. And it feels bad because eUnited are doing something incredibly interesting with their draft in that meta be damned. We're going to play what we want. Scream probably sat there, bottom pick said, lock me Poseidon, and it happens. And it honestly almost made a case for itself. There are a bunch of really good ganks that work out in the mid lane, but Benji's performance on this Jingchen was admirable. It's one of the few gods in the game that you can leave alone in the solo and just expect that it's going to float no matter what. Not often do you get to say that Jingchen's going to outright win a lane or even kill the enemy opponent, but it just worked out. He did exactly what you said, turns a 2-for-1 into or 2-on-1 rather, into a 1-for-0, and then he came back 2 minutes later and stole his lane opponent again. It's crazy.
Yeah, for me, this felt like the turning point, though, Myth. I mean, they really, I think, really needed this gank to work. Because we talked about it, too, a little bit, right? The way the Variety started this laning phase was that he started with less pressure because of the abilities he leveled. And so they needed that gank to be the equalizer in this lane for Variety to be able to stand on his own. And it just didn't work. That set up for Benji to get this return kill right afterwards. And then Benji just became a nightmare for them. I mean, I think he led in all players in damage with this 19,000. You're seeing at the bottom of the screen, too. Just an excellent performance from him.
I mean, that's why Aggro's been hailing him as in contention for the best in the world ever. Not right now in Phase 2, not right now in Phase 1, not in the past. This guy is considered one of the best, most consistent solo laners on the planet, and that's a game where you could truly make an argument for it. He absolutely dominated that lane on a god pick that shouldn't. I want to emphasize that Jingchen should not body lane ever, and he
got
absolutely
some history there, huh? Any history with solo laners playing Xingqian there, Myth, or is that what's coming through?
a little bit, yeah. Sometimes your solo laners say, pick me Xingqian, and you can't agree with them because it doesn't win, but Benji made it look good, as did Dorst in the past. Shouts to homie. Well played.
Certainly, no, you got a lot of love for that guy, and I can't believe it this whole time without talking about Adapting's Robin that game. I mean, he was also setting the pace on the other side of the map. Anywhere where he showed up, it was instant pressure, and Adapting is the one that we have standing by for the post-game interview.
That's right, Adapting here with me. First of all, congrats, Adapting, on the 2-1 win here over to eUnited. This eUnited squad, they love their game threes. Unable to turn one around just yet, though. I am curious, though, mentality. You're going into the set against eUnited. You lose game 1. What's the communication like to kind of turn things around for games 2 and game 3?
Well, we just had to recognize the key mistakes we made in game 1. I think we just weren't talking enough, and yeah, so like we kind of went in on engagements, not really knowing what we're doing. So we solved that for game 2, and we didn't really have the best start, but you know, things started looking up once we started having team fights. So
right, able to close out game 2 and then move on, close out game 3 there as well. I am curious, this is maybe a bit removed from this set. You guys are now starting to make your way through playing these teams for the second time here in this phase. You started off phase 2 with eUnited, now playing them for the second time here in this phase. How much really changes between, you know, you play them the first time, you play them the second time, or is it kind of a fresh bit of preparation from first matchup to second?
Well, you know what worked at least the first time if you beat them, so usually you probably try and plan for the same way, right? And if you're on the losing end, you do the opposite, you know. You try and figure out why you lost last time. But yeah, I don't know, it's interesting to play teams the second time and see kind of how it unfolds.
That was a nice little through-the-wall hammer there for you, Adapting. I believe that was game number 1 there. So I am curious now. We got the jungle guy with us. We got to ask him about it. It wasn't you piloting the Poseidon jungle in game number 3, but you're playing against it. What are your thoughts on Poseidon in the jungle, and did you expect to see that out of eUnited?
Well, I think post jungle can work some games, but like, I don't know, like Scream's a bit of a random guy, and he kind of picked that in probably the worst possible matchup. Like Ravana kind of hard counters Poseidon, and I feel like our team comp in general was pretty good into Poseidon, so I don't really know, but
hey,
it
worked out there for you guys. That's right. Adapting, congrats, 2-1 win for you guys. Now a game in hand, granted, one more game played than SSG, but on top of the standings here in the SPL, so that's got to feel good for you guys. Big congrats to you, Adapting, but that's it here for this weekend in the SPL. We'll go back to the desk to take us home.
And it's always great to get to hear from Adapting, get to hear from Kennedy. He's right, man. That overhead kick probably makes life pretty much near impossible for the Poseidon. Man, we're about to close things out here today, but as we just got through hearing from Dave, I mean, Radiance now up at the top of the standings, and do you think that reflects the reality here right now? Do you think Radiance are the strongest team we have?
It's so absolutely tight at the top. Ghost Gaming, Radiance, Sanguine, and SSG, all incredibly potent competitors. But if I had to pick one that is at least just a minuscule, just a millimeter ahead, I think it is reflected in the standings. Radiance is looking completely dominant, so consistent, and I think a lot of it is through adapting, who we just got to hear from, but also BMT just absolutely stepping up to the plate in Phase 2. Each one of these guys are individually performing at some of the best I've ever seen them play. It's hard to take anything away from them.
I gotta agree, man. Tings has played really, really well, and there's tough competition in mid right now to be the best. Shinto, Dardes come to mind as some guys that are playing absolutely lights out right now. So to be in their company, I think pretty impressive for big man Tings here at this point. Obviously, eUnited 0-8 right now with that struggle, but I think still showing us they've got a lot that they can build on by taking games off some of the very best. Here's the schedule coming up for next week, and there's obviously some big sets there. Space Station and Pittsburgh, nice start off as a big one on Sunday. We got Sanguine versus SSG. That's a big set too. And Radiance can be playing up against Knights. Often considered that team right on the bubble of those top four. So it'd be interesting to see how they'll match up too. Mifflin, a lot of good sets coming up.
Hey man, you didn't even mention the most exciting one. Renegades up against Obey Alliance. Obey fans,
Yeah, that's on me.
We don't get a lot of shots at dubs, okay? It doesn't happen very often, but I think up against Renegades, we might be able to pull one through, all right? Let's all show up on that day and give them some power, all right?
I think that's going to be interesting to watch too, Miff. And I know that you're just the Obey fanboy there, so I'm laughing a little bit at that. But you're right, man. I think that's a big set. I mean, just as much as we follow along with those ones up at the very top to see some clearance there, some clarity there, seeing Renegades and Obey and how eUnited play against each other is also just as critical. So I'm excited for those matches too, Miff, and I'm right there with you. That's going to do it here for us for the SPL. The next time that you see us with SPL action, it's going to be on Friday of next week, so make sure that you are there. For everybody that makes the show happen, though, in production, the other casters, as well as Mifflin, who's right here next to me, thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.